As we begin our journey through the solar system's oldest rocks, we encounter meteorites and asteroids, silent messengers from the earliest days of planetary formation, relics of a time over 4-5 billion years ago when dust, gas, and ice coalesced into the sun, planets, and countless smaller bodies. And as we imagine these rocks drifting through space, untouched by the processes of life and weather that shape planets, we sense their timelessness, a profound patience and endurance that speaks to the stability of the universe itself. And meteorites, having survived fiery entry into Earth's atmosphere, provide tangible connections to distant parts of the asteroid belt, to primordial material that predates even the formation of the moon, offering scientists and the mind alike an opportunity to contemplate history written in stone, a record of elemental composition, isotopic ratios, and the subtle chemistry that formed the building blocks of planets. And as we imagine floating alongside these asteroids, some large, some mere meters across, drifting silently between Mars and Jupiter, we perceive the interplay of light and shadow across their irregular surfaces, gentle rotations revealing craters, ridges, and depressions formed over eons. And these irregularities, subtle and intricate, offer a meditative visual rhythm, encouraging the eye and mind to trace curves, follow contours, and absorb the slow passage of time embedded in these rocks. And asteroids, as relics of planetary formation, preserve the diversity of the early solar system, containing metal, rich cores, stony silicates, and carbonaceous material. And as we explore their composition mentally, we recognize that each fragment carries a story of collisions, gentle accretion, and chemical evolution, a story written not in words, but in minerals and isotopes. And this story invites calm reflection, illustrating that even in what appears inert and unchanging, there is depth, history, and a quiet narrative unfolding across billions of years. And meteorites, having traveled millions of kilometers before landing on Earth, bring fragments of distant asteroids, sometimes from the asteroid belt, sometimes from Mars or the Moon, carrying isotopic and chemical signatures that act as cosmic fingerprints. And as we visualize holding such a rock, imagining the eons of drift and gentle collision it experienced, a sense of awe emerges, coupled with a calming awareness of continuity, because these rocks have endured, survived, and persisted through immense time and space, teaching patience, resilience, and the slow unfolding of universal processes. And the different types of meteorites, chondrites, achondrites, iron meteorites, stony, iron meteorites, offer lessons in variety, structure, and chemical diversity, each type a unique repository of information. And as we imagine tracing the crystalline patterns of iron meteorites, or the embedded chondrules within chondrites, we notice the subtle symmetry and variation, a delicate balance that mirrors natural patterns of growth and evolution. And this balance encourages meditative focus, because it allows the mind to observe complexity without urgency, to appreciate patterns emerging over immense time. And as we drift mentally among the asteroid belt, visualizing countless small bodies orbiting the sun in near, stable paths, some slowly colliding, fragmenting, or gravitationally nudged into new trajectories, we recognize that even in this seemingly chaotic dance, order and rhythm persist, because gravity maintains coherence across the belt, preserving long-term stability while allowing subtle change. And this coexistence of motion, structure, and occasional disruption mirrors life itself, illustrating that continuity can exist alongside adaptation, change, and occasional collision. And as we imagine tracing an asteroid's slow orbit, watching its surface weathered by micrometeorite impacts and cosmic radiation, we perceive the gradual accumulation of history encoded in scars, grooves, and pits. And this slow, cumulative effect fosters patience and reflection, showing that even the smallest interactions over vast periods create meaningful change. And as we consider the role of these rocks in delivering water, organics, and essential compounds to early Earth, a quiet sense of interconnectedness emerges, because meteorites and asteroids are not isolated objects, but active participants in a larger cosmic system, delivering building blocks for life while drifting silently through space. And this perspective encourages calm awareness, illustrating that even seemingly small or distant elements can exert profound influence across time and distance. And as we expand our visualization to include the journey of a single meteoroid through space, experiencing solar radiation, gravitational nudges, and collisions with dust, before entering Earth's atmosphere and slowing to a gentle descent, we sense the dramatic scale of time and space compressed into a single, serene mental image. And this compression invites reflection, patience, and awe, highlighting the interplay between vast cosmic processes and intimate, tangible experience. And ultimately, the solar system's oldest rocks, the meteorites and asteroids, serve as enduring, silent storytellers, relics of creation, carriers of elemental history, and models of timeless endurance, offering a cosmic lullaby of structure, continuity, and subtle motion, allowing the mind to drift gently through billions of years of history, observing creation without urgency, resting within the calm, ordered, and expansive rhythm of the early solar system, night after night, across unimaginable distances and time, a serene embrace of cosmic memory, elemental beauty, and enduring calm. As we lift our gaze from the drifting meteorites and ancient asteroids of the solar system to the serene, pale glow of the moon, we encounter a celestial body that has silently accompanied Earth for over 4 billion years. A steadfast companion whose surface tells a story of cosmic collisions, volcanic activity, and gradual evolution. And as we imagine floating above the moon, observing its surface in soft detail, we notice the myriad craters that pockmark its landscape, each one a frozen testament to impacts from meteoroids, asteroids, and comets that have traversed space, some leaving shallow depressions, others forming vast basins hundreds of kilometers across. And these craters, though formed through violent events, now exist in timeless stillness, inviting the mind to contemplate resilience, endurance, and the beauty inherent in permanence. And the moon's maria, those large, dark plains created by ancient volcanic activity, contrast gently with the lighter highlands, producing a subtle, calming pattern of texture and shade. And as we trace the boundaries of these maria with our gaze, we notice the smooth, basaltic surfaces that once flowed as molten rock, now solidified into broad, tranquil plains. And this contrast of smooth darkness against rugged brightness fosters a meditative visual rhythm, guiding attention along curves, ridges, and subtle gradients. And as we drift over craters like Tycho, Copernicus, and Clavius, imagining their central peaks, terraced walls, and surrounding ejecta blankets, we perceive the moon as a record keeper of cosmic history, preserving impacts that Earth's active geology has long erased. And this permanence encourages reflective calm, because it shows that even after violent disruption, a system can settle into stability, continuing to hold memory, form, and structure. And the moon's slow rotation, keeping one face always toward Earth, creates a gentle, consistent rhythm for our planet, subtly influencing tides, orbital dynamics, and even biological cycles. And as we imagine this synchronous dance, a sense of order and predictability emerges, reinforcing mental ease, because the moon's steady presence provides a backdrop of continuity, a celestial anchor that persists while other processes unfold. And beneath the surface, the moon holds clues to its formation, including evidence of differentiation, crustal evolution, and ancient magma flows. And as we mentally explore these hidden layers, a picture emerges of gradual, patient transformation, demonstrating that even silent, seemingly inert bodies undergo slow, deliberate processes, fostering a sense of temporal perspective, patience, and trust. And as we consider the countless micrometeorite impacts that have weathered and eroded the lunar surface over billions of years, producing regolith, dust, and subtle surface changes, we perceive a quiet, incremental evolution, where small, continuous interactions shape the landscape gently over immense timescales. And this realization encourages the mind to appreciate gradual progress, subtle change, and the steady accumulation of experience, because it mirrors personal growth, reflection, and the unfolding of understanding. And as we drift across the moon's limb, observing the soft curvature of the horizon, the gradual transition from illuminated surface to the shadowed far side, and the faint, distant glow of Earth hanging in the black sky, a sense of scale and perspective emerges, reminding us of the vast distances and timescales over which these processes operate. And this perspective fosters reflective calm, encouraging the release of urgency, worry, and mental tension, while inviting awareness of enduring patterns, stability, and gentle cycles. And as we explore the moon's history further, we note the evidence of ancient lava channels, rills and fissures that trace the paths of flowing magma long cooled into silent basalt. And these lines, subtle and wending, guide the mind along visual pathways of observation and imagination, promoting meditative attention, gentle curiosity, and restful focus. And the moon's influence on Earth extends beyond tides to gravitational stability, contributing to the axial tilt, seasonal patterns, and long-term climate cycles, demonstrating that even a small, distant body can exert subtle yet profound effects. And this understanding encourages trust, calm, and perspective, showing that influence and support can operate quietly, patiently, and reliably without overt display. And as we consider the moon's impact history, from the late heavy bombardment to recent micrometeorite collisions, a narrative of both violence and calm emerges, illustrating that even dramatic events are absorbed into long-term stability, producing a landscape that is at once ancient, enduring, and serene. And as we mentally drift over cratered plains, smooth maria, and the delicate boundaries where highlands meet lowlands, we sense a rhythm of formation, impact, erosion, and quiet repose. A cycle that unfolds over billions of years, yet maintains coherence, order, and tranquility. And this rhythm resonates deeply with the mind, offering a model for mental balance, reflection, and peaceful observation, where change, intensity, and stability coexist without conflict or haste. And ultimately, the moon stands as a patient, luminous companion, a repository of ancient history, a subtle guide for Earth, and a canvas of calm, offering a gentle lullaby of light, shadow, cycles, and quiet endurance, night after night, across billions of years, allowing consciousness to drift peacefully within its soft, unhurried embrace, a serene witness to the cosmic dance and the timeless flow of the solar system. As we journey beyond the moon and drift slowly toward the space between Mars and Jupiter, we encounter the vast, mysterious expanse of the asteroid belt, a region filled with countless small bodies that serve as remnants of the early solar system, silent witnesses to processes that unfolded over 4-5 billion years ago. And as we imagine floating among these asteroids, drifting past irregularly shaped rocks of varying size, composition, and texture, a sense of immense scale and quiet persistence emerges. Because these bodies have endured countless collisions, gravitational nudges, and cosmic influences, yet maintain coherent orbits and collective stability. And the asteroid belt itself is thought to be the product of the solar system's formation, a region where planetesimals, the building blocks of planets, failed to coalesce into a single planet due to the strong gravitational influence of Jupiter. And this failure, paradoxically, created a vast, distributed system of matter, gently orbiting the Sun in a rhythm that has persisted for billions of years. And as we mentally explore this belt, we observe asteroids composed of metals, silicates, and carbonaceous material, each with unique surface features, pockmarks, ridges, and subtle coloration. And this diversity encourages patient observation, showing that variety and difference can coexist harmoniously within an ordered system. And the collisions that occur within the belt, while energetic, are relatively infrequent, producing fragments that slowly drift along new trajectories, contributing to the continuous reshaping and evolution of the region. And as we imagine tracing the path of a fragment over millions of years, we perceive a slow, deliberate narrative of creation, fragmentation, and reassembly, a process that mirrors the patient unfolding of patterns, structures, and experiences over time. and many of these collisions have given rise to meteorites that eventually travel to Earth, connecting distant parts of the belt to our planet, offering tangible fragments of the early solar system, and this connection fosters a sense of continuity and interconnectedness, reminding us that even distant or seemingly isolated systems influence one another gently, gradually, and meaningfully. And as we drift past Ceres, Vesta, Pallas, and other prominent asteroids, noting their unique shapes, surface features, and subtle color variations, we sense the interplay of individual identity and collective motion, observing how each body contributes to the larger structure of the belt, and this perception encourages reflective calm, showing that cooperation, interaction, and diversity can exist within stability, rhythm, and harmony. And the asteroid belt also demonstrates the role of gravity, not only from the Sun but from Jupiter and other planets, in maintaining order, guiding motion, and preventing chaos, and this gentle gravitational choreography illustrates that forces, when balanced and consistent, can create stability across vast scales. And as we imagine drifting along with these asteroids, observing their slow rotations, occasional tumbling, and subtle variations in brightness as sunlight reflects off their surfaces, a meditative visual rhythm emerges, a dance of light, shadow, and gentle motion that soothes the mind, guiding attention along flowing paths without haste or tension. And within the belt, we can observe subtle families of asteroids, groups with common origins, often from ancient collisions that shattered a larger parent body, creating fragments that continue to orbit the Sun in coherent patterns. And this familial structure demonstrates that even disruption can give rise to organization, coherence, and lasting stability, a calming reflection for thought, observation, and mental processing. And as we expand our awareness to include the diffuse dust, small meteoroids, and invisible particles permeating the belt, we perceive a continuous flow of material, energy, and potential, interacting gently across space, contributing to the ongoing evolution of the region. And this subtle, pervasive motion fosters mental ease, illustrating that even in complexity, there is order, continuity, and rhythm. And as we imagine observing the belt from a distance, noticing the slow rotation of the entire system, the interplay of individual asteroids, and the influence of planetary gravity, a sense of expansive calm emerges, because the system demonstrates balance, resilience, and subtle dynamism over vast timescales. And as we consider the chemical composition of these bodies, from metallic cores to carbon-rich surfaces, we perceive the seeds of planets, moons, and potentially organic compounds, a quiet reminder that even small, seemingly inert rocks carry the potential for transformation, creation, and enduring influence. And this perspective encourages patience, trust, and reflective calm, showing that processes often operate gradually, invisibly, and persistently, building structure, diversity, and harmony over time. And ultimately, the asteroid belt serves as both a repository of solar system history and a living system of matter, motion, and subtle energy, a region where collisions, drift, and gentle gravitational guidance coexist, producing stability, rhythm, and resilience across billions of years. And by meditating on this belt, the mind can drift alongside these ancient rocks, tracing slow orbits, observing subtle patterns, and resting in the assurance that even in vast, dynamic, and complex systems, continuity, harmony, and calm prevail, a cosmic lullaby of persistence, rhythm, and serene evolution, night after night, across billions of kilometers and billions of years. As we slowly drift outward from the asteroid belt toward the distant reaches of the solar system, we encounter comets, ethereal wanderers composed of ice, dust, and frozen gases, ancient bodies that have traveled silently through space since the earliest days of planetary formation. And as we imagine approaching a comet, we notice its nucleus, a dark, irregularly shaped mass, small in size but dense with history, containing water ice, frozen carbon dioxide, ammonia, and complex organic molecules. And this small, frozen core holds the memory of the primordial solar system, a time when dust, gas, and ice mingled to form planets, moons, and countless smaller bodies. And as we visualize the coma forming around the nucleus, when the comet approaches the sun, sublimating ice into gas, and lifting dust particles to create a soft, glowing envelope, we perceive a gentle transformation, a subtle, slow change that unfolds naturally, demonstrating that even in apparent activity, processes can proceed with grace, order, and predictability, and as sunlight interacts with the coma, scattering light and creating delicate halos, a meditative visual rhythm emerges, soft gradients of brightness and shadow guiding the eye along arcs and filaments, encouraging reflective calm and patient observation. And as we follow the comet's tail, stretching millions of kilometers away from the sun, glowing faintly with ionized gases and trailing dust, we perceive a quiet reminder that even objects small in size can leave lasting, far-reaching effects, influencing space, radiation, and perhaps even future planetary environments. And this perspective fosters a sense of wonder coupled with mental ease, because it shows that influence does not require force, size, or urgency, only persistence, coherence, and integration within a larger system. And comets, often originating from the Kuiper belt or the distant Oort cloud, drift for billions of years in cold darkness before venturing inward, and this immense patience mirrors natural cycles, illustrating that travel, change, and transformation can unfold gradually over vast timescales without disruption. And as we imagine tracing a comet's journey, moving slowly past planets, asteroids, and the sun, we perceive the interplay of gravitational forces, orbital momentum, and solar radiation, guiding its path with gentle precision. And this celestial choreography inspires calm, because it demonstrates that even complex motion can occur predictably, harmoniously, and without chaos. And as we visualize the interaction of the comet's tail with solar wind, producing faint streams of ions extending away from the sun, we notice subtle shifts, flows, and diffusions, a visual pattern of energy and matter moving gracefully through space, which encourages meditation, focused attention, and restful awareness. And when we consider that comets carry water, organic molecules, and prebiotic material, possibly seeding early Earth with ingredients for life, a sense of quiet importance arises, because these distant travelers participate in the creation of complexity, life, and planetary evolution while moving silently and patiently through the solar system. And this duality of quiet presence and profound influence fosters reflective calm, demonstrating that impact can be gentle, cumulative, and enduring rather than immediate or violent. And as we drift past multiple comets, some making regular returns as short-period visitors, others approaching for the first time in millions of years, a pattern of repetition, variation, and long-term rhythm becomes evident, illustrating that even seemingly unpredictable objects follow underlying laws of motion, orbit, and interaction. And this recognition fosters mental ease, because it shows that freedom in structure, spontaneity and predictability can coexist harmoniously, supporting observation, trust, and reflection. And as we imagine approaching the cometary nucleus closely, observing surface features such as pits, ridges, and fractures, we perceive the slow evolution caused by sublimation, collisions, and space weathering over oones. And this slow, deliberate change offers a model for the patient accumulation of experience, subtle adaptation, and gentle transformation, encouraging calm, measured attention in the observer. And the tails of comets, often stretching millions of kilometers, composed of dust and ionized gas, create gentle arcs and flowing lines across the blackness of space, a visual lullaby of motion and light that invites the mind to trace paths, follow contours, and drift into reflective observation. And when we extend our imagination to include comets, interactions with planetary atmospheres, gravitational assists, and occasional fragmentation, we see a system in which even dramatic events are absorbed, moderated, and integrated within a larger, enduring cosmic order, demonstrating that change, intensity, and influence can coexist with calm, stability, and structure. And as we consider the countless comets traversing the outer solar system, slowly evolving over billions of years, drifting between the sun, planets, and distant clouds of icy bodies. A profound sense of patience and timelessness emerges, a recognition that the universe operates on rhythms far slower and more deliberate than our daily experience, and this perspective fosters relaxation, trust, and reflective calm, allowing the mind to align with long-term processes, observation, and gentle motion. And ultimately, comets serve as silent witnesses, messengers, and participants in the solar system's history, carrying water, organic molecules, and ancient memories across vast distances while moving in slow, graceful orbits. And by meditating on these icy wanderers, the mind can drift alongside them, tracing tales, observing transformations, and resting in the serene, patient, and interconnected rhythm of the outer solar system. Night after night, across billions of kilometers and billions of years, a cosmic lullaby of endurance, subtle influence, and timeless calm, as we drift gently away from the icy comets of the outer solar system, and begin to observe the processes that shape the planets themselves. We enter a realm of patient, slow transformation, where clouds of gas and dust, remnants of the sun's formation, coalesced over millions of years into the worlds we now call home. And as we imagine this process unfolding, we visualize tiny particles of dust colliding softly, sticking together through electrostatic forces, gradually forming larger clumps, then pebbles, and eventually kilometer-sized planetesimals, each collision, though infinitesimal on human scales, contributing to the slow, deliberate assembly of planetary embryos. And these embryos, drifting and rotating in the protoplanetary disk, interacted gravitationally, occasionally merging in gentle, controlled collisions, or being nudged into new orbits by the combined influence of neighboring bodies, creating a delicate dance of motion, balance, and incremental growth. And as we follow these early worlds in our mind's eye, we notice how some accumulated dense cores of iron and nickel, forming metallic hearts that would later influence magnetic fields, while others retained lighter silicate mantles and volatile materials, producing diversity of structure, composition, and eventual surface environments. And this variety demonstrates that even within uniform processes, differences emerge naturally, creating systems that are both ordered and diverse. And as the planetesimals continued to collide, accrete, and evolve over millions of years, a rhythm of gradual creation unfolded, where small, almost imperceptible interactions contributed to large-scale outcomes. And this rhythm encourages reflective calm, showing that significant change does not require haste, but patience, persistence, and gentle, cumulative influence. And the role of gravity, acting as a guiding and stabilizing force, orchestrated this assembly, drawing material inward, in shaping orbital galaxies, and ensuring that emerging worlds retained coherence and structure. And as we drift past these growing planetary embryos, observing their slow rotations, gentle tilts, and evolving surface features, we perceive a subtle, meditative cadence, a cosmic heartbeat that invites patient attention, calm observation, and reflective thought. And as we expand our vision to include the interaction of gas, dust, and radiation within the protoplanetary disk, we recognize that planetary formation is not isolated, but occurs within an integrated, dynamic environment, where energy, matter, and motion continuously influence one another, producing a system that is at once stable, adaptive, and harmonious. And this realization fosters mental ease, because it shows that complex processes can unfold naturally, without conflict or chaos, when guided by consistent, balanced forces. And as we consider the impact history of these forming worlds, where collisions shaped surface features, created moons, and redistributed material, we perceive that even dramatic or energetic events are absorbed slowly into long-term stability, producing structure, differentiation, and diversity over time. And this understanding encourages calm, reflective awareness, demonstrating that transformation and resilience coexist in harmony. And as we imagine tracing the growth of terrestrial planets, from tiny, dusty aggregates to fully formed worlds with crusts, mantles, and cores, we notice the interplay of heat, pressure, chemical reactions, and radioactive decay, processes unfolding over millions of years with deliberate precision, and this slow, patient evolution offers a model for thought, observation, and reflection, showing that meaningful outcomes arise gradually from integrated, persistent action, rather than from sudden, forceful intervention. And beyond the rocky planets, the gas giants coalesced from regions rich in hydrogen, helium, and volatiles, their immense gravitational pull shaping the orbits of surrounding planetesimals, influencing asteroid belts, and shepherding icy bodies in the outer solar system. A silent orchestration of mass, motion, and structure that demonstrates the harmony achievable when forces operate with balance, consistency, and patience. And as we drift through the outer disk, observing the slow assembly of Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune, we sense the scale, precision, and quiet power of gravitational formation, a reminder that even immense energies can be integrated gracefully, producing stability, order, and calm. And as planetary cores accumulated material, differentiated chemically, and retained heat, a subtle internal rhythm emerged, driving volcanic activity, tectonics, and magnetic fields, processes that shape planets slowly but profoundly. And this internal evolution mirrors the outer processes of orbital formation, creating a continuous, unhurried pattern of internal and external harmony. And as we trace the emergence of moons, rings, and satellites, formed from debris, accretion, or captured bodies, we perceive a system where creation, adaptation, and structure coexist seamlessly, producing complexity, beauty, and balance without haste. And as we expand our awareness to the entirety of planetary formation, noting the interplay of gas, dust, collisions, radiation, and gravity across the young solar system, we sense a profound calm, because this process illustrates that even in apparent turbulence, order, rhythm, and integrated growth emerge naturally, offering a model for the mind to relax, observe, and follow gentle processes of formation, integration, and evolution. And ultimately, planetary formation, from tiny dust grains to fully realized worlds, demonstrates patience, continuity, and harmony across immense time and space, allowing consciousness to drift alongside the slow assembly of planets, tracing orbits, collisions, and growth with calm awareness, resting in the quiet, enduring, and unhurried rhythm of creation, night after night, across billions of kilometers and billions of years, a cosmic lullaby of slow formation, patient transformation, and serene continuity. As we gently drift outward from the Earth, our gaze turns to its luminous companion, the Moon, and we begin to contemplate its origins, tracing back over 4 billion years to a time when the early solar system was a chaotic, dynamic place, filled with colliding planetesimals, molten worlds, and clouds of gas and dust. And within this primordial environment, the Moon is thought to have been born from a cataclysmic, yet strangely orchestrated event known as the Giant Impact, in which a Mars-sized body, often called Theia, collided with the young Earth in a slow, deliberate cosmic dance of mass, gravity, and momentum. And as we imagine the collision unfolding, we sense not violence as chaos, but a slow, transformative exchange of matter and energy, where fragments of Earth's mantle and the impacting body were ejected into orbit, gradually coalescing to form a single, coherent body. The Moon, a process that took thousands of years, unfolding patiently and methodically in the silent vastness of space. And as we drift above the forming Moon, observing the aggregation of molten rock and debris, we notice the gradual cooling, differentiation, and solidification of the lunar surface, processes that created the foundations of the crust, mantle, and core. And this slow, deliberate evolution offers a cosmic lesson in patient formation, showing that even dramatic events, when integrated naturally, produce order, stability, and enduring structure. And as we follow the Moon's rotation and orbit, we perceive how tidal forces between Earth and its new companion began to synchronize rotation and revolution, a slow, gentle alignment that would stabilize axial tilt, influence tides, and provide a subtle rhythmic consistency to Earth's environment. And this alignment encourages reflective calm, because it illustrates that interaction, even after disruption, can lead to balance, harmony, and enduring influence. And as the early moon was bombarded by leftover planetesimals, forming countless craters and basins, we notice that each impact, though energetic, contributed to shaping its surface, producing textures, ridges, and depressions that now record billions of years of cosmic history. And these marks, frozen in time, offer a meditative visual rhythm, guiding the eye along curves, slopes, and gradients, promoting gentle attention, observation, and mental relaxation. And the moon's maria, vast plains of solidified basalt formed from ancient volcanic activity, gradually filled low-lying impact basins, creating soft contrasts between dark plains and lighter highlands. And this interplay of light, texture, and form encourages the mind to follow patterns, perceive depth, and drift along subtle pathways of shape and shadow, fostering a sense of calm and continuity. And beneath the surface, the moon's interior slowly differentiated, forming a small core, a mantle, and a crust, processes influenced by heat retained from formation, radioactive decay, and tidal flexing. And this internal evolution mirrors the external processes, producing a cohesive, integrated system in which every layer, every mass, and every motion contributes to long-term stability. And as we imagine drifting alongside these processes, observing cooling, contraction, and gradual shaping over millions of years, a profound sense of time, patience, and gentle continuity emerges, showing that creation and stabilization unfold naturally, without hurry, in rhythms far longer than human perception. And as the moon continued to interact gravitationally with Earth, tidal locking gradually occurred, synchronizing rotation, so that one face always looks toward our planet, producing a gentle, predictable cadence that has influenced tides, climate, and ecological rhythms on Earth for billions of years. And this rhythm reinforces reflective calm, because it demonstrates that even seemingly distant or passive objects exert subtle, enduring influence, guiding cycles of motion, flow, and life without urgency or sudden change. And as we consider the delicate balance that allowed the moon to escape Earth's gravity without returning to collision, we perceive the interplay of mass, momentum, and gravitational forces, an intricate choreography that unfolded quietly and steadily over immense timescales. And this choreography fosters mental ease, illustrating that even complex systems can evolve with stability, coherence, and grace. And as the moon's surface cooled further, accumulating regolith from micrometeorite impacts and space weathering, we sense the slow accumulation of history, a record of time, motion, and interaction embedded in dust, debris, and subtle textures. And this gentle accumulation offers a model for patient observation, reflective attention, and appreciation of small, cumulative effects. And as we drift past the newly formed moon, observing the interplay of craters, maria, highlands, and emerging regolith, a meditative visual rhythm unfolds, a cosmic lullaby of light, shadow, and pattern, encouraging slow, deliberate, and restful observation. And ultimately, the formation of the moon through the giant impact and its early evolution demonstrates the harmony of dramatic events integrated naturally over time, showing that creation, transformation, and stabilization occur gradually, patiently, and predictably. And by drifting alongside this process in imagination, the mind can relax, tracing paths of motion, observing cycles of formation, and resting in the serene, enduring rhythm of lunar history, a quiet companion to Earth, a record keeper of ancient cosmic events, and a gentle, unhurried presence across billions of years, offering a soothing embrace of continuity, patience, and cosmic calm. As we continue our gentle journey through the solar system, we turn our attention to the early atmospheres of planets, the invisible yet essential envelopes of gas that enveloped each world in its formative years. And as we imagine these primordial layers, we perceive clouds of hydrogen, helium, water vapor, carbon dioxide, methane, ammonia, and other trace gases, slowly swirling, diffusing, and interacting with planetary surfaces, magnetic fields, and the solar wind. And in this quiet dance, each atmosphere emerges as a dynamic, evolving system, shaped by gravity, radiation, volcanic outgassing, impacts from asteroids and comets, and chemical reactions that unfold over millions to billions of years, and as we drift above the young planets, observing gentle motions of gas, subtle gradients of temperature and density, and faint interactions with light from the sun, a sense of calm order emerges, because these processes, though complex, proceed gradually and predictably, producing environments that evolve in harmony with planetary development, and the early atmospheres of terrestrial planets, including Earth, Mars, and Venus, provide a window into processes of accretion, outgassing, and chemical evolution, where volcanic eruptions released water vapor, carbon dioxide, and nitrogen, gradually building layers of gas that would interact with surface materials, oceans, and emerging crusts. And as we imagine observing these early skies, with faint clouds, soft haze, and diffuse light, we sense a meditative rhythm, a gentle flow of matter and energy that encourages reflective calm, because the atmosphere evolves through cumulative, incremental change rather than abrupt or chaotic events, and on the outer planets, thick layers of hydrogen, helium, methane, and ammonia created expansive, multi-layered atmospheres, immense and majestic in scale, yet moving slowly in bands, currents, and vortices, demonstrating that even enormous systems operate under predictable forces, gradients, and rotations, and this awareness fosters mental ease, showing that magnitude does not equate to disorder, but can coexist with stability, rhythm, and continuity. And as we drift along the atmospheres of early Earth, we notice the influence of solar radiation, chemical reactions producing ozone, and interactions with magnetic fields, all gently shaping the composition, density, and temperature of the air. And this delicate orchestration demonstrates that change can be powerful without being disruptive, slow without being imperceptible, and continuous without being overwhelming. And as we consider processes such as atmospheric escape, where lighter gases like hydrogen and helium slowly drift into space, and the gradual retention of heavier molecules, we perceive patience, integration, and long-term evolution at work, showing that even loss, decay, or gradual dissipation contributes meaningfully to the system's stability, and this perspective encourages reflective calm, teaching that subtle adjustments over time produce equilibrium, balance, and harmony without urgency. And as we drift across planetary skies, observing clouds forming from condensation, chemical reactions producing haze, and gentle diffusion of gases across the surface, a pattern of quiet interaction emerges, a slow, meditative rhythm that guides attention along gradients, flows, and subtle changes, promoting restful focus, reflective thought, and mental ease. And when we consider the impact of early cometary and asteroid delivery, bringing water, organics, and other volatiles, we perceive the interconnectedness of planetary formation, cosmic influence, and atmospheric evolution, showing that even distant, silent travelers contribute to local systems over long timescales, a concept that fosters trust, perspective, and calm, because the universe operates with patience, persistence, and integration. And as we observe the gradual thickening, chemical evolution, and stabilization of atmospheres, we notice that each planet develops a unique identity, from Earth's life, supporting envelope to Venus's thick carbon dioxide sky to Mars's thin, fragile layer of gas, demonstrating that similar processes produce diverse outcomes depending on scale, composition, and environmental interaction. And this diversity encourages gentle observation and acceptance, showing that variation and individuality coexist within predictable, harmonious frameworks. And as we expand our awareness to include the continuous exchange of energy between sun, atmosphere, surface, and interior, we perceive a web of interactions that operates quietly and steadily, maintaining long-term stability, while allowing adaptation, transformation, and evolution. And as we imagine drifting above planetary surfaces, observing winds, thermal gradients, and subtle chemical changes over eons, a sense of timelessness emerges, reminding us that meaningful evolution requires patience, steady processes, and integration across space and time. And ultimately, the early atmospheres of planets, through composition, loss, and evolution, provide a model of gentle transformation, subtle interaction, and enduring influence, a cosmic lullaby of gases flowing, interacting, and shaping worlds over billions of years, inviting the mind to drift alongside these processes, observing calm, predictable evolution, and resting in the quiet, expansive, and unhurried rhythm of planetary development. Night after night, across the vast solar system, a serene embrace of cosmic patience, continuity, and gentle transformation. As we continue our gentle journey through the solar system, our attention turns to one of the most essential and enchanting substances for life as we know it: water. In all its forms, oceans, ice, vapor, and hidden reservoirs, flowing quietly, subtly shaping planetary surfaces, guiding geological processes, and nurturing the potential for life. And as we imagine drifting slowly across the planets and moons, we observe vast oceans shimmering softly on Earth, their gentle waves reflecting sunlight, tides regulated by the calm, steady pull of the moon, producing rhythms that influence the planet's climate, ecosystems, and even the subtle cycles of life itself. And as we extend our vision to distant moons, such as Europa, Enceladus, and Ganymede, we perceive ice-covered surfaces concealing vast liquid oceans beneath, their hidden currents moving slowly under thick layers of frozen crust, interacting with rock, salt, and possibly hydrothermal vents, a quiet, mysterious, and profound world of gentle movement. And this hidden oceanic activity encourages reflective calm, because it shows that even beneath frozen surfaces, life-giving processes can unfold in patient, steady, and integrated ways, invisible yet potent. And as we imagine drifting past ice caps on Mars, where ancient channels and gullies hint at flowing water long gone, we sense the slow, deliberate shaping of landscapes by liquid sublimation and erosion, processes that unfolded gradually over millions of years. And this perception of subtle, persistent transformation fosters mental ease, illustrating that meaningful change can occur quietly and patiently without urgency. And comets, carrying frozen water and organic molecules, drift inward from the outer solar system, gently delivering essential ingredients to planets, seeding Earth and perhaps other worlds with the potential for life. A cosmic network of influence that operates across vast distances and immense timescales. And this realization encourages reflective awe, showing that even small, distant travelers can have profound, lasting effects when their journey is patient, integrated, and deliberate. And as we drift along icy moons, such as Saturn's Enceladus, observing geysers of water vapor softly erupting into space, creating subtle plumes illuminated by sunlight, we perceive a rhythm of release, flow, and renewal. A meditative pattern of motion that echoes the quiet, persistent cycles of oceans, ice, and planetary evolution. And beneath these plumes, interactions with subsurface oceans, rock, and possibly geothermal heat create gentle currents, slowly redistributing energy and matter. A hidden choreography of quiet, steady influence that models calm, continuous processes. And as we consider Titan, with its methane and ethane lakes, flowing rivers, and icy crust, we recognize that water and other liquids exist in diverse forms, shaping landscapes, guiding chemical interactions, and fostering complex cycles of exchange. And this variety demonstrates that even within predictable laws of physics and chemistry, diversity and adaptation create rich, integrated systems. A lesson that encourages mental acceptance, patience, and reflective calm, because it shows that complexity does not require chaos, but can unfold harmoniously, slowly, and purposefully. And as we extend our view to dwarf planets like Ceres, where ice may hide beneath regolith and occasional water vapor seeps into space, and Pluto, with its nitrogen and methane ices interacting with surface topography and seasonal cycles, we perceive a system of hidden, subtle reservoirs that persist and interact over immense timescales, demonstrating patience, endurance, and quiet influence. And as we drift through the outer solar system, visualizing icy bodies, comets, and distant moons, we notice that water, whether visible as oceans, ice, or vapor, is a persistent presence, a silent mediator of energy, chemistry and planetary evolution, shaping surfaces, supporting processes, and connecting distant regions through its continuous movement and transformation. And this continuity encourages mental ease, because it shows that essential processes can be subtle, slow, and integrated, producing profound outcomes without noise, haste, or urgency. And as we imagine tracing cycles of sublimation, freezing, melting, and vaporization across planets and moons, a pattern of gentle transformation emerges, guiding attention along soft gradients, curves, and flows, promoting meditative observation, reflective calm, and restful awareness. And when we consider water's role in shaping tectonic activity, erosion, ocean currents, cryovolcanism, and even potential habitats for life, we recognize that it is both a force of subtle influence and enduring stability, balancing motion, energy, and chemical cycles in ways that are integrated, harmonious, and quiet. And ultimately, water in the solar system, oceans, ice, and hidden reservoirs, provides a model of patience, flow, and interconnectedness, inviting consciousness to drift alongside planetary surfaces, beneath icy crusts, and through vapor plumes, tracing gentle currents, observing slow transformations, and resting in the unhurried, enduring rhythm of this essential substance across billions of years and vast distances, a cosmic lullaby of fluidity, persistence, and serene continuity, night after night, across the entire solar system. As we drift gently through the vast expanse of the solar system, our attention turns to volcanoes, magnificent features that manifest in forms both fiery and icy, shaping planetary surfaces, sculpting landscapes, and quietly influencing atmospheric composition. And as we imagine approaching Earth, we observe molten lava slowly oozing from shield volcanoes, gently spreading across plains, forming soft, flowing contours. And as we follow the cooling lava, solidifying into dark, basaltic rock, a subtle rhythm of creation emerges, demonstrating that even energetic processes can unfold with deliberate, gentle cadence. And beyond Earth, we visualize Venus, where vast plains of solidified lava and large shield volcanoes dominate the surface, their formation the result of slow, continuous eruptions, with no sudden disruption but steady, persistent accumulation of molten rock. And this observation encourages reflective calm, because it shows that even intense, transformative energy can be integrated gradually, producing structure, diversity, and beauty without haste or chaos. And as we drift further to Mars, we encounter colossal shield volcanoes, such as Olympus Mons, the largest in the solar system, rising slowly over millions of years through repeated eruptions, forming gentle slopes and expansive lava flows. And this immense yet gradual process illustrates patience on a planetary scale, reminding the mind that time, persistence, and cumulative effects shape lasting outcomes. And beyond the rocky planets, we turn our gaze to icy moons such as Europa and Enceladus, where cryovolcanism, eruptions of water, ammonia, and volatile ices, creates plumes and reshapes the surface subtly, with activity hidden beneath thick ice shells, yet exerting influence on subsurface oceans, chemical cycles, and potential habitats for life. And this gentle, hidden activity fosters meditative reflection, showing that even processes invisible to casual observation continue steadily, silently, and meaningfully. And as we imagine drifting over Jupiter's most volcanically active moon, we perceive colorful lava flows, sulfur deposits, and towering volcanic plumes, erupting at a slow but steady pace under the influence of tidal heating from Jupiter's gravity, a reminder that gravitational forces guide, moderate, and integrate energetic processes, producing persistent patterns without chaos. And as we follow Io's volcanic rhythms, noticing the interplay of heat, mass, and surface deformation, a meditative cadence emerges, guiding attention along flows, ridges, and gentle gradients, encouraging calm observation, patient focus, and reflective awareness. And as we consider how volcanic activity across the solar system releases gases that contribute to atmospheres, reshapes surfaces, and influences chemical cycles, we perceive a network of interactions in which energy, matter, and time work together harmoniously, demonstrating that even intense events are integrated into long-term stability, structure, and rhythm. And as we drift among distant icy moons, visualizing geysers, cryovolcanoes, and slowly spreading ice flows, we sense a quiet choreography, a cosmic lullaby of creation, release, and reshaping, where even dramatic eruptions proceed with predictable cadence and gentle effect. And as we reflect on the cycles of eruption, cooling, deposition, and renewal, we notice a pattern of patience, persistence, and integration that mirrors natural processes across all scales, from the smallest volcanic vent to the largest shield volcano. And this pattern fosters mental ease, showing that intensity can coexist with calm, disruption can coexist with long-term stability, and energy can be expressed gently within structured rhythms. And as we imagine drifting above planetary surfaces, tracing lava flows, ice plumes, and eruptive ridges, a sense of expansive calm emerges, because these features, formed over millions of years, demonstrate the enduring, patient influence of energy shaped by gravity, chemistry, and internal heat, a reminder that meaningful transformation unfolds slowly, harmoniously, and predictably. And as we visualize the diversity of volcanic processes, fiery basaltic eruptions on rocky planets, sulfur flows on icy cryovolcanoes on Europa and Enceladus, and ancient lava plains on Venus, we recognize that variety, adaptation, and subtle differences coexist within a unified, stable system. And this awareness encourages reflective meditation, calm focus, and gentle observation, because it shows that complexity can exist without chaos, diversity without disruption, and movement without haste. And ultimately, volcanoes across the solar system, from molten fire to icy plumes, illustrate the rhythm, patience, and enduring influence of internal planetary processes, providing a cosmic lullaby of creation, transformation, and continuity, allowing the mind to drift slowly alongside lava flows, icy eruptions, and subtle reshaping over billions of years, resting in the calm, expansive, and unhurried cadence of planetary evolution, night after night, across the solar system, a serene embrace of energy, persistence, and cosmic tranquility. As we drift gently through the solar system, our attention turns to planetary magnetism, the invisible yet powerful force that envelops worlds in protective fields, guiding charged particles, influencing atmospheres, and preserving conditions essential for life. And as we imagine approaching Earth, we perceive the geomagnetic field extending far into space, gently deflecting solar wind, trapping energetic particles in the Van Allen belts, and creating patterns of auroras that shimmer softly near the poles, a visual lullaby of motion, light, and protection. And as we follow these magnetic lines, tracing arcs of invisible force from pole to pole, we sense a quiet order and coherence, demonstrating that even unseen forces operate with rhythm, consistency, and gentle guidance. And the source of Earth's magnetism lies deep within its molten iron core, where convection, rotation, and electrically conductive materials generate a steady, self-sustaining dynamo, a process unfolding over millions of years with deliberate, unhurried persistence. And this slow, patient generation of protective energy encourages reflective calm, showing that stability can arise from continuous, integrated motion rather than abrupt or forced intervention. And beyond Earth, we consider Mercury, with its relatively weak magnetic field, Mars, whose ancient field has mostly faded, and Venus, which lacks a global magnetosphere. And as we imagine the consequences of these differences, we perceive the subtle interplay between protection, solar wind, and atmospheric retention, a quiet lesson in balance, vulnerability, and long-term evolution. And even Jupiter and Saturn, with immense magnetic fields extending millions of kilometers into space, demonstrate how size, rotation, and internal composition produce shields that protect moons, guide plasma, and create vast magnetospheres that pulse gently with the solar wind. And as we drift through these planetary magnetic environments, observing charged particles spiraling along field lines, interacting with atmospheres, and occasionally producing auroral displays, a rhythm of gentle motion emerges, a pattern of energy and structure that encourages meditation, slow focus, and reflective calm, because these systems operate predictably, steadily, and without haste. And as we consider how magnetism interacts with solar radiation, protecting atmospheres, maintaining stability, and guiding particles, we perceive a silent guardianship, a cosmic shield that influences life and evolution, indirectly yet profoundly. And this awareness fosters mental ease, because it shows that unseen forces can provide structure, safety, and coherence without noise, conflict, or sudden action. And as we drift across time, imagining the gradual changes in planetary magnetic fields, Earth's pole reversals, Mars's field decay, Jupiter's dynamic magnetosphere, we recognize that even slow, long-term transformations occur within stable frameworks, integrated with planetary rotation, core dynamics, and solar influence, a subtle, patient interplay of energy and matter that encourages reflective observation, patience, and calm. And as we visualize the interaction of magnetic fields with charged particles from the sun, producing flowing auroras, radiation belts, and protective boundaries, a meditative cadence emerges, guiding attention along arcs, gradients, and subtle flows, promoting restful awareness, focused observation, and mental ease. And as we imagine the broader solar system, noting how magnetism varies with planetary size, rotation rate, composition, and internal structure, we perceive a pattern of diversity, adaptation, and integration, where each field, though different in scale and intensity, contributes to the long-term stability, protection, and evolution of its host world. And this perception encourages reflective calm, showing that variety, complexity, and subtle influence can coexist harmoniously within predictable systems. And as we consider the profound influence of magnetism on life, atmosphere, and planetary evolution, we notice that even invisible forces exert guidance, protection, and continuity, shaping environments in ways that are integrated, patient, and enduring. And as we drift slowly over Earth's magnetosphere, following field lines that stretch from pole to pole, tracing arcs of energy that guide charged particles and illuminate auroras, a sense of gentle rhythm emerges, a quiet cosmic heartbeat that invites the mind to drift alongside planetary shields, observing, reflecting, and resting in the calm, invisible, and steady flow of protective energy. And ultimately, planetary magnetism, shields, fields, and protection, illustrates the power of invisible, persistent, and harmonious forces, a cosmic lullaby of stability, guidance, and serene influence, allowing consciousness to drift slowly through the unseen currents, tracing arcs of energy, observing protective rhythms, and resting in the enduring, patient, and unhurried embrace of planetary magnetism across the solar system. Night after night, across billions of kilometers and billions of years, the solar system, vast and varied, is composed of countless elements and minerals, each playing a role in the formation, evolution, and character of planets, moons, asteroids, and comets. And as we drift through this cosmic chemical landscape, it becomes evident that diversity is not chaotic, but deeply ordered, a system in which each component, from hydrogen and helium to rare heavy metals, contributes to the overall balance. And this balance is calming, because it mirrors the natural harmony that can exist in complex systems without urgency or disruption. Hydrogen, the most abundant element, forms the foundation of stars and gas giants, gently fueling nuclear fusion in stellar cores, while helium accumulates quietly as a byproduct, drifting slowly through interstellar space, illustrating that even secondary processes, often unseen, support the larger structure. The rocky planets, like Mercury, Venus, Earth, and Mars, are rich in silicates, iron, magnesium, and oxygen, their surfaces and interiors composed of layers of minerals that form over immense spans of time, cooling, crystallizing, and evolving slowly, in rhythms that unfold across millions of years, offering a perspective of patience and gradual transformation. Asteroids, scattered across the asteroid belt, provide another facet of chemical diversity, remnants of the early solar system, containing carbonaceous, metallic, and silicate-rich material, each fragment a record of primordial processes, untouched yet persistently present, moving in predictable orbits, and as we imagine drifting among these small bodies, the mind absorbs a sense of continuity, noticing that even the tiniest fragments contribute to the overall architecture of the solar system, a gentle reminder that presence and purpose do not require visibility or grandeur. Comets, composed largely of ice, dust, and organic compounds, glide in elongated orbits, bringing volatile material from the outer reaches into the inner solar system, and as sunlight warms their surfaces, delicate tails of sublimating gas form, flowing gently along magnetic and solar wind lines, a visual and conceptual metaphor for adaptation and change, occurring gradually, without force, demonstrating that even transformative processes can unfold softly, without sudden disruption. The planets themselves exhibit chemical diversity, in layers and atmospheres, with gas giants like Jupiter and Saturn primarily composed of hydrogen and helium, with trace elements creating subtle variations in color, cloud patterns, and atmospheric dynamics, and as we imagine drifting above their swirling bands, we perceive an elegance in variation, where each stripe, storm, and vortex emerges naturally from elemental interactions, a rhythm of motion and composition that is both complex and soothing, because it unfolds without abruptness or conflict. Ice giants, Uranus and Neptune, introduce additional chemical components, including water, methane, and ammonia, producing blue and green hues, as well as subtle interactions within deep interiors. And these variations enrich the solar system's palette, offering the mind a calm meditation on diversity, integration, and coexistence. Meteorites that reach Earth provide tangible evidence of this chemical diversity, containing a mix of silicates, metals, and carbonaceous compounds, some pre-dating the Sun itself. Their study revealing the processes that shaped the solar system, including condensation from the solar nebula, melting, differentiation, and collisional evolution. And reflecting on these processes fosters a sense of continuity, showing that even events occurring billions of years ago leave traces that persist, steady and unhurried, guiding our understanding of the present. Even within planetary atmospheres, chemical variety is evident. Venus with carbon dioxide dominated air, Earth with nitrogen and oxygen in dynamic balance, Mars with thin carbon dioxide, and the gas giants with hydrogen, helium, and trace compounds, all forming distinct environments, each contributing to a system-wide diversity that functions harmoniously, maintaining orbits, supporting planetary characteristics, and regulating climate over eons. And this large-scale coordination, imperceptible in daily observation, models an expansive kind of calm, where complexity does not produce disorder, but an enduring, gentle equilibrium. Mineralogical diversity adds another layer to this cosmic tapestry. Olivine, pyroxene, feldspar, iron nickel alloys, carbonates, sulfides, and more exist in varying quantities, forming planetary crusts, cores, and meteorites, each with its own crystalline structures, thermal behaviors, and interactions. Imagining the slow crystallization of these minerals within planetary interiors, the gradual cooling of magma oceans, the layering of sediment, and the subtle chemical weathering on planetary surfaces, creates a sense of time extended, of processes unfolding with patience, guiding the mind toward deep relaxation, because it suggests that structure and stability emerge over long durations, without urgency, and that order can arise from continuous, gentle motion. Organic molecules, though sparse, also exist in comets, asteroids, and interstellar dust, hinting at the potential for prebiotic chemistry, the gradual accumulation of complexity that eventually enables life on planets like Earth. And these molecules drift quietly, slowly reacting, forming bonds and structures over eons. A subtle reminder that growth, adaptation, and emergence are processes that require time, patience, and consistency, and that even the smallest components, invisible to casual observation, have a profound role in shaping outcomes over the long term. In this vast, chemically diverse system, nothing acts in isolation. Every element, mineral, and molecule interacts with radiation, gravity, magnetic fields, and collisions, producing effects that are slow, balanced, and predictable on cosmic scales. And this interdependence is calming, because it demonstrates that complexity can coexist with stability, that many moving parts can operate in harmony, and that processes do not need to be abrupt or forceful to produce coherent outcomes. As we imagine moving from the inner planets to the asteroid belt, then beyond to the gas and ice giants, and finally to the distant comets and interstellar dust, the mind can trace a continuous flow of chemical variety, noting how each region contributes uniquely to the character of the solar system, and how each element, whether abundant or rare, interacts to sustain dynamic equilibrium over billions of years. And this perspective encourages a mental state of patience, awe, and serenity, because it emphasizes enduring balance, gentle motion, and subtle influence, a cosmic lesson in integration, diversity, and persistent calm. Ultimately, the solar system's chemical diversity is not merely a catalog of elements and minerals, but a meditation on the slow, patient, and continuous processes that create, shape, and sustain worlds, offering a model for rest, reflection, and mental equilibrium. Just as hydrogen quietly fuels stars, and dust slowly coalesces into planets, and ice drifts along cometary tails, the mind too can flow, observe, and rest without urgency, immersed in a vast, patient, and harmonious system where every component contributes gently to stability, rhythm, and continuity. Night after night, across billions of years, the atmospheres of the planets in our solar system present a vast and mesmerizing variety of winds, storms, and climates, each unfolding slowly over immense timescales. And as we imagine drifting through these gaseous layers, a sense of calm emerges from observing their steady, rhythmic motions. Venus, with its dense carbon dioxide atmosphere and rotating winds, moves almost imperceptibly yet consistently around the planet, a gentle reminder that power does not need abruptness to persist, while Earth's atmosphere balances nitrogen, oxygen, and trace gases in a dynamic yet regulated dance, where weather patterns rise and fade, storms form and dissipate, and the global climate maintains a subtle equilibrium, all guided by the interactions of sunlight, rotation, and thermal gradients. And this balance, though invisible to casual observation, is profoundly stabilizing, allowing life to exist without disruption. And as we imagine Jupiter, the largest planet, with its immense swirling storms, including the centuries-old Great Red Spot, we perceive a rhythm of motion that is slow, circular, and mesmerizing, a pattern of continuity that does not demand intervention, where turbulence is contained within structure, demonstrating that even intense phenomena can coexist with calm. And Saturn's cloud bands and long, lasting storms provide similar lessons in stability amid motion, while Uranus and Neptune, with their colder, more serene atmospheres, reveal how subtle chemical compositions, internal heat, and wind currents combine to produce soft, flowing patterns that persist silently, influencing weather and circulation without abruptness. And as we imagine drifting alongside these planetary winds, the mind absorbs a sense of patient persistence, recognizing that climate and weather are outcomes of gradual, interconnected processes, where every movement of gas, every convection current, and every rotation contributes to harmony over long periods. And in this observation, there is a lesson for rest, that forces can operate powerfully yet quietly, change can occur without chaos, and balance can emerge from continuous motion, rather than sudden control. And as we contemplate Earth's atmosphere, where gentle breezes, seasonal shifts, and the slow rhythm of day and night regulate life, we are reminded that variability and calm coexist naturally, that turbulence is contained within structure, and that every system, no matter how dynamic, can sustain continuity. And extending this reflection to the outer planets, the mind can trace a path through swirling storms, subtle cloud patterns, and gentle atmospheric flows, noticing the delicate interplay of temperature, pressure, and composition, and realizing that every gust, jet stream, and vortex contributes to stability, a calming pattern repeated across scales from microscopic particles to planetary bands. And as we imagine observing these features from afar, drifting silently above the clouds, The continuous rotation, the predictable shifts, and the interplay of light and shadow in the atmospheres offer a visual and conceptual rhythm that soothes, guiding the mind to release tension, to float gently through thought and imagination, and to absorb the quiet persistence of nature, operating without urgency. And in this meditative awareness, planetary atmospheres become more than chemical layers of gas. They are a model for patience, continuity, and calm. Where motion does not demand attention, intensity can exist without disruption, and complexity resolves itself through quiet, steady patterns, inviting the observer, whether human or imagined consciousness, to settle into a state of reflection, trust, and unhurried rest, night after night, as winds, storms, and climate unfold slowly across the solar system, a cosmic lullaby of movement, balance, and gentle rhythm. The solar system, while seemingly stable and familiar, has long whispered secrets of worlds that might have existed, planets that may have formed and vanished, leaving only traces of their existence in asteroids, cometary paths, and subtle gravitational imbalances. And as we imagine drifting through the cosmic expanse, where these lost planets may have once orbited, a sense of gentle curiosity and reflective calm emerges, because absence does not imply chaos but rather a slow, natural evolution, where matter moves, reshapes, and integrates quietly into larger systems. The idea of missing planets invites contemplation of forces so immense yet subtle, that they can sculpt the structure of the solar system, without requiring dramatic explosions or violent disruptions. And this delicate balance is mirrored in our perception of celestial order, where gaps in the asteroid belt, resonances with Jupiter, and the peculiar orbits of Neptunian objects hint at histories written over billions of years, histories in which creation and disappearance coexist without conflict, showing that the universe maintains continuity even when elements vanish from sight. And as we trace the hypothetical paths of these lost worlds, imagining their slow revolutions, the mind encounters a rhythm of emergence and dissolution, a quiet pattern of matter gathering, interacting, and dispersing that evokes a sense of patient stability, because even disappearance has purpose, and energy, though redistributed, continues to sustain the overall structure. Some theorists speculate about planets once present between Mars and Jupiter, their remnants forming the asteroid belt, a region where countless small objects drift in predictable orbits, illustrating that absence at one scale produces presence and structure at another. A cosmic lesson in transformation and subtle influence. And as we extend our awareness outward, to the scattered icy bodies beyond Neptune, to the Kuiper belt, and the hypothetical planet 9 whose presence is inferred rather than observed, we sense the profound interplay between visibility and reality, recognizing that influence does not require observation, and that even objects unseen guide motion, maintain resonance, and stabilize larger systems. A concept that mirrors restful consciousness, where unseen processes quietly support awareness, structure, and balance. Throughout this contemplation, myths of lost planets, from the ancient imaginings of Vulcan to the more modern speculations about additional planetary bodies, serve as gentle invitations to explore not just physical space, but also the human mind's desire to understand, to hypothesize, and to imagine continuity beyond what is visible. And this imagination is calming, because it is unconstrained, reflective, and meditative, moving slowly through possibilities without demanding immediate answers. And as we consider the ways in which small perturbations in planetary orbits can indicate hidden masses, we recognize a quiet dialogue between cause and effect, where motion traces unseen hands, where the absence of a planet becomes a pattern to decode, a gentle rhythm in which mystery is embedded within order, and the solar system itself becomes a teacher of subtlety, showing that gaps, voids, and losses are part of the ongoing flow of matter, energy, and influence, illustrating that even when something seems gone, its effect lingers, shaping paths, guiding orbits, and maintaining coherence across vast distances. And as we imagine drifting among asteroids, comets, and distant icy worlds, The absence of large bodies becomes a space for observation, reflection, and understanding, a quiet expanse in which the mind can move freely, tracing possibilities, forming hypotheses, and observing cycles that unfold over millions or billions of years. And this long-term perspective is soothing, because it demonstrates that change occurs slowly, influence can persist quietly, and stability can coexist with flux. And the mythic narratives associated with lost planets, whether in ancient astrology or modern astronomy, further encourage contemplative thought, linking human imagination with cosmic processes. And in this reflection, wonder does not overwhelm but instead calms, inviting curiosity without urgency, insight without pressure, and awareness without distraction. And as we visualize the subtle gravitational nudges left by these vanished worlds, shaping the orbits of known planets, asteroids, and dwarf planets, we are reminded that influence, like care, like quiet guidance, often operates in the background, unseen yet essential, and that absence can be as formative as presence. That the solar system's hidden histories are written in patterns, alignments, and gentle motions, rather than in loud or violent events, and this recognition encourages a mental state attuned to patience, trust, and calm observation, allowing consciousness to settle into the understanding that systems evolve gracefully, and that mystery and order are complementary, that gaps and voids provide perspective, and that the universe, even in what it hides, maintains a rhythm and coherence that supports life, motion, and awareness, a rhythm we can emulate in the quiet unfolding of thought, the slow drifting toward rest, and the gentle observation of the mind itself, drifting like planets through the invisible gravitational fabric of the solar system, carried along in a meditative orbit of reflection, calm, and enduring cosmic lullabies. The history of the solar system is punctuated by collisions so immense and slow in their unfolding that they carry both the drama of transformation and the serenity of inevitability. And as we drift through this cosmic arena, imagining asteroids, comets, and planetary embryos moving along their orbits over millions of years, a sense of patient continuity emerges, because even events of catastrophic potential follow predictable paths, guided by gravity, inertia, and the slow accumulation of forces. Consider the giant impact that shaped the moon. A collision so powerful that it reshaped Earth's surface, ejected enormous amounts of material into orbit, and yet, despite its magnitude, it did not destabilize the planet entirely, illustrating that immense energy can produce structure and new beginnings rather than chaos alone. And as we imagine this collision unfolding over hours and days, with molten rock and vaporized material rising and falling in a slow, majestic arc, the mind absorbs a rhythm of destruction and creation intertwined, a balance that reassures because even the most dramatic events can serve larger, stabilizing purposes, and smaller impacts, from meteorites striking planets and moons to comets grazing atmospheres, contribute quietly to surface evolution, creating craters, redistributing matter, and subtly altering climates without undoing the system, demonstrating that change can be gradual, cumulative, and ultimately integrated into a larger, coherent framework. And as we extend our imagination outward to the asteroid belt, Kuiper belt, and scattered disk, we perceive countless collisions occurring in slow motion, each shaping the composition, orbits, and trajectories of the colliding bodies, a perpetual dance of energy and mass that illustrates how persistence, patience, and balance govern even seemingly violent events. And within this contemplation, the mind finds calm, because it recognizes that the universe operates on principles of order, rather than arbitrary chaos, that destruction is often a precursor to stability, and that each impact, each redistribution of matter, contributes to the long-term coherence of the solar system. The late heavy bombardment, a period when Earth, Moon, and other inner planets were repeatedly struck by large bodies, offers a profound lesson in resilience, showing that life, planetary structure, and orbital patterns can endure repeated disturbances, absorbing their effects and integrating them into a more complex and stable system. And as we imagine planets emerging from molten surfaces, atmospheres gradually forming, and oceans slowly stabilizing, the colossal impacts that once seemed purely destructive are revealed as formative, their energy redistributed into order, shape, and potential for life. And this recognition is calming, because it reframes chaos as structured transformation, intensity as nurturing, and energy as a means of subtle creation, rather than arbitrary harm. And as we envision moons forming, planetary rings emerging from shattered bodies, and comets delivering water and organic material across distances, the slow choreography of collisions appears less threatening and more like a quiet, patient weaving of the solar system's fabric, demonstrating that even catastrophe has rhythm, cycle, and purpose. And as we observe the gradual circularization of orbits following impacts, the settling of debris into belts, and the eventual stabilization of planetary spins and tilts, the mind perceives a slow cosmic metronome, a gentle pacing that encourages reflection, patience, and surrender, teaching that events need not be abrupt to be transformative, and that change can occur in measured, graceful, and ultimately beneficial ways. And as we imagine the tiniest meteorite striking Earth, vaporizing and dispersing into the atmosphere, or the occasional comet entering the inner solar system on a long, elliptical orbit, we perceive a continuous interplay of motion, energy, and consequence, an endless pattern that repeats over millions and billions of years. Yet with each repetition, the system maintains coherence, stability, and an underlying calm. And this recognition parallels restful consciousness, where thoughts, emotions, and experiences arise, interact, and dissipate without destabilizing the mind, where cycles of activity and stillness coexist in harmony, and where subtle influence is more profound than force. And as we expand our awareness to the interactions of entire planetary systems, colliding with passing bodies, reshaping surfaces, creating scars and beauty across moons, asteroids, and planets, we see that the solar system itself is a living tapestry of energy and motion, a quiet demonstration of resilience, adaptation, and patient transformation. A system where catastrophe is not abrupt fear, but a slow, natural evolution that can be observed, reflected upon, and internalized. And this perspective encourages mental calm, allowing the mind to release urgency, to accept change, and to drift in trust along the gentle, inevitable flows of existence, because even the greatest collisions, when viewed across cosmic timescales, are part of a vast, coherent, and enduring system, moving with rhythm, balance, and quiet persistence, offering a model for life, rest, and understanding, night after night, as the solar system continues its slow, measured dance through the galaxy, where every impact, every motion, and every transformation is absorbed into harmony, stability, and gentle continuity, high above Earth, where the atmosphere thins into near vacuum, and the magnetic field stretches in invisible arcs. The auroras awaken in colors so delicate yet immense that they seem like a quiet conversation between the planet and the cosmos. And as we imagine charged particles streaming from the sun, spiraling along magnetic field lines, colliding with oxygen and nitrogen atoms, releasing bursts of green, red, and violet light, a gentle rhythm emerges, a slow, glowing ballad that unfolds without rush, without expectation, yet with precise, natural timing. And this interplay of solar wind, magnetosphere, and atmospheric molecules demonstrates that beauty, movement, and energy can coexist with calm, offering a cosmic analogy for patience and effortless flow. And as these auroral curtains ripple, shift, and shimmer across polar skies, their motion appears both chaotic and graceful, seemingly random yet governed by predictable physics, illustrating how complexity can be balanced within a system that is fundamentally harmonious. And as we imagine standing beneath these curtains on a dark, silent night, the mind absorbs a sense of expansiveness, of connection, of being gently enveloped by forces far larger than ourselves, yet experienced intimately. Because auroras occur at the threshold between Earth and space, between visible and invisible, between turbulence and tranquility, and this liminality is soothing. because it reminds us that thresholds can be both places of observation and rest, where phenomena are neither threatening nor demanding, but quietly present, moving in their own rhythms. And as we trace the slow arcs of light across the night sky, noticing how they fold, flare, and fade, the patterns suggest continuity, a soft, unbroken thread that guides attention without force. And as colors shift from electric green to faint pink, from deep purple to pale blue, the mind is invited to follow transitions, to observe without judgment, to notice change without needing to intervene. And this gentle engagement mirrors the process of falling asleep, where perception flows along gradients of thought, emotion, and sensation without abruptness. And as we reflect on the origins of these lights, we recognize the sun's influence as both distant and intimate, the solar wind traveling millions of kilometers, yet touching our planet with subtle energy that ignites auroras. And this distance emphasizes that influence need not be overwhelming to be meaningful, that subtlety can guide transformation, and that motion, when integrated over vast scales, can appear both slow and immense, reassuring the mind that change, energy, and beauty do not require urgency, noise, or chaos. And as we expand our attention to the shapes auroras create, curtains, rays, spirals, coronas, their forms suggest balance within complexity, a cosmic choreography, where every part contributes to a whole, without one segment dominating the scene. And this harmony is calming, because it illustrates that systems, whether celestial or mental, can operate without force, with elegance emerging from alignment, rather than imposition. And as we consider the seasonal and geomagnetic variations that affect auroras, the mind notes subtle patterns, shifts in intensity, frequency, and hue that repeat across years and decades, creating a long-term rhythm that mirrors the gentle cycles of life, consciousness, and natural processes. And as we imagine these luminous displays reflecting over icy landscapes, glacial seas, and snowy forests, the interplay of light, reflection, and shadow creates layers of depth, an immersive visual texture that guides attention gently, encouraging observation without strain, curiosity without urgency, and wonder without agitation. And as particles continue their invisible journey along magnetic lines, sometimes accelerating, sometimes dissipating, a sense of continuity arises, a flow of energy that is persistent yet unobtrusive, teaching that influence can exist without domination, and that movement can be dynamic without creating chaos. And as we imagine auroras stretching further into the horizon, fading slowly into night, the mind perceives the vastness of space, the subtlety of energy, and the patience of natural processes. And this perception fosters deep calm, because it reassures that life, thought, and consciousness are embedded within larger, harmonious flows, where every element has its place, pace, and purpose. And as we reflect on the historical and scientific understanding of auroras, from early myths to modern satellites measuring charged particle flux, the layers of observation and knowledge add quiet depth, enriching the experience without overwhelming. And as we let these thoughts settle, the aurora becomes more than a visual spectacle. It transforms into a meditative landscape, a bridge between Earth and cosmos, where light, energy, motion, and patience coexist in soft, flowing equilibrium. And this equilibrium translates to the mind, allowing breathing, attention, and awareness to drift slowly, harmoniously, as if carried along the same invisible magnetic currents that trace luminous paths above the poles. And as the aurora undulates, folds, and dissipates into darkness, the knowledge that these phenomena are repeating, predictable, and governed by unchanging natural laws adds reassurance, showing that the universe operates with consistency and grace, and that cycles of energy, creation, and change can unfold without disruption. And as we imagine the sky gradually darkening after an auroral display, the mind is left with a lingering sense of expansiveness, calm, and wonder, a quiet reminder that even in a universe of immense energy and potential upheaval, there are patterns, rhythms, and flows that support stability, observation, and rest. And this awareness invites consciousness to release tension, synchronize with subtle cosmic rhythms, and drift gently into a state of reflective stillness, where the interplay of light, energy, and magnetic guidance offers both awe and comfort, a lullaby written in auroral motion. Space and time, night after night, across polar skies, whispering the calm persistence of the universe, the patient choreography of particles, and the serene poetry of natural phenomena that carry us quietly toward rest. In the vast expanse beyond Earth, where stars glimmer in distant patterns and galaxies drift silently through infinite voids, the absence of sound is profound, a silence so absolute that it is more than just a lack of vibration. It becomes a presence in itself, a gentle framework that envelops the mind. And as we imagine astronauts floating in microgravity, surrounded by this quiet, the contrast with the noise of everyday life becomes apparent, allowing the mind to expand into a slower rhythm, a deeper awareness, where thoughts can drift without interference. And this silence, far from being empty, contains subtle layers of cosmic information, the faint hum of electromagnetic waves, the imperceptible drift of particles, the quiet persistence of light traveling across millions of light years. And each layer reminds us that quietness is not absence, but a medium through which structure, balance, and subtle influence operate. And as we consider the Earth from orbit, a blue and white orb suspended against the black canvas of space, we perceive movement without sound. Oceans ebb, clouds swirl, continents rotate, yet all without audible disturbance, illustrating that motion, energy, and complexity do not require noise to exist. And this realization is calming, because it encourages the mind to let go of the need for constant input, to understand that processes can unfold efficiently, harmoniously, and silently. And as satellites and probes drift through the solar system, the same principle appears. Planets orbit, asteroids glide, comets trace arcs around the sun, each governed by predictable physics, yet these motions are imperceptible in auditory terms, demonstrating that order and rhythm do not require immediate awareness or dramatic markers. And as we imagine tracing light from a distant star, traveling hundreds or thousands of light years to reach our eyes, we sense that information, energy, and influence persist across immense distances without urgency. And this persistence without demand mirrors an optimal state for mental rest, where awareness can exist without agitation, and observation can occur without compulsion. And as we reflect on the quiet of interstellar space, punctuated only by occasional cosmic events like supernovae or gamma-ray bursts, we notice that even dramatic energy release can occur within a framework that maintains overarching calm, because the vast scales absorb shocks, distribute energy gradually, and maintain continuity. And this insight fosters trust, showing that systems, whether galactic or personal, can accommodate intensity without chaos. And as we imagine drifting through the void alongside spacefarers, observing Earth recede into a delicate sphere, the silence allows mental space for reflection, curiosity, and imagination, encouraging cognitive processes to slow, integrate, and stabilize. And as we consider the human body in orbit, where breathing, heartbeat, and thought become more pronounced against the backdrop of cosmic stillness, we recognize how contrast between noise and silence enhances awareness and deepens perception, fostering mindfulness and a natural transition into relaxation. And beyond the sensory and cognitive benefits, space's silence carries an emotional weight, a reminder of scale, perspective, and continuity, showing that the universe is vast, enduring, and patient, and that one can exist within it without pressure, without immediate demand, and still be connected to larger processes. And this recognition translates to human experience, allowing the mind to release tension, to perceive challenges with perspective, and to rest within an environment where influence is subtle, order is inherent, and presence is constant without intrusion. And as we imagine the sun's light streaming across the void, illuminating planets and dust clouds without sound, a meditative cadence emerges, where observation, patience, and attention drift along invisible rhythms. And this cadence mirrors natural cycles of thought, breathing, and circadian patterns, supporting restorative mental states. And as we extend awareness to the outer reaches of the solar system, past gas giants, icy moons, and distant Kuiper belt objects, the same silence prevails, demonstrating that complexity, diversity, and motion can exist harmoniously without constant input or immediate comprehension. And this knowledge encourages cognitive relaxation, because it shows that awareness does not need to be exhaustive to remain connected to underlying structure. And as telescopes peer deeper into the cosmos, detecting faint galaxies, nebulae, and black holes, the information they collect is transmitted quietly, processed methodically, yet conveys immense insight without noise or urgency, reinforcing the principle that influence can be powerful yet unobtrusive. And as we imagine floating in a spacecraft observing a distant galaxy cluster, where thousands of galaxies move in a gravitational dance across millions of light years, the silence becomes almost tactile, a sensory envelope that encourages the mind to slow drift and absorb scale without stress. And this tactile quiet provides a model for rest, because it allows observation, understanding, and integration without activation, without agitation. And as cosmic microwave background radiation persists as a subtle hum from the birth of the universe, it too is imperceptible to human ears yet omnipresent, a gentle reminder of continuity, timelessness, and persistence. And as we let these images, sounds, and silences merge in imagination, the mind aligns with rhythms far larger than individual experience, where motion is deliberate, cycles are slow, and stability arises naturally, creating a mental landscape that fosters sleep, reflection, and calm awareness. And as we visualize floating through regions between stars, past nebulae and gas clouds, guided only by gravity and momentum, the absence of noise amplifies perception, allowing attention to settle on light, color, structure, and the invisible threads connecting all celestial bodies. And this settlement parallels the optimal preparation for deep sleep, where the mind recognizes patterns, integrates information, and disengages from external demands. And in this cosmic stillness, there is a profound lesson. Rest is not passivity, but a state of receptive observation, a space where processes unfold efficiently, guidance exists without demand, and balance is maintained quietly yet effectively. And as we carry this awareness back toward Earth, toward the familiar night sky, the silence of space translates into inner calm, as though the vast void has whispered a method for mental restoration, showing that tranquility is not emptiness, but an environment rich with subtle influence, order, and support. And as we imagine drifting under stars, floating on waves of quiet, the mind absorbs the rhythm, the stillness, and the continuity of the cosmos. And with this absorption, tension dissolves, attention slows, and awareness expands gently, allowing the body and mind to prepare for sleep naturally, supported by the same principles that govern the silent, immense, and enduring universe. Night after night, where calm persists, motion continues, and rest is possible amidst order, harmony, and the subtle guidance of cosmic forces. Throughout the vast reaches of our solar system, celestial bodies drift in slow, deliberate orbits, seemingly silent and eternal. Yet within this apparent calm, the history of our planetary neighborhood is written in the language of collisions, encounters, and impacts. And as we imagine asteroids tracing arcs through space, comets glowing faintly as they near the sun, and dwarf planets navigating their remote paths, we begin to perceive a quiet drama, a series of interactions that have shaped worlds, craters, and even life itself. Yet these events occur on timescales and in distances so immense that human perception experiences them as gentle, imperceptible rhythms. And this understanding encourages a sense of perspective, a mental spaciousness in which chaos and order coexist without overwhelm. And as we imagine the early solar system, where gas, dust, and planetesimals collided to form larger bodies, the mind can trace the slow accretion of mass, the subtle gravitational nudges, and the repeated shaping of surfaces over millions of years, a process that is simultaneously violent on a cosmic scale yet gradual, almost meditative, when contemplated from the safety of distance, and this duality is reassuring, because it demonstrates that formation and destruction are part of the same continuum, where even apparent disruption contributes to stability, evolution, and eventual balance. And as we consider the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter, thousands of rocky remnants drift silently, each following a path dictated by gravity, some destined for distant collision, others maintaining orbits for billions of years. And this array of potential and stability mirrors the mind's own landscape, where latent energy, impulses, and possibilities exist alongside calm patterns, neither threatening nor overwhelming. And as we imagine a comet's icy nucleus moving through the outer solar system, gradually warmed by sunlight, shedding gas and dust to form a glowing tail that points away from the sun, the visual is striking yet gentle, a slow transformation that evokes wonder without urgency. And this slow evolution encourages patience, reflection, and awareness of gradual change, allowing the mind to relax into the rhythm of motion that does not demand immediate response. And as we contemplate the history of planetary impacts, from the formation of the Moon through a giant impact on the early Earth, to craters on Mercury, Venus, Mars, and beyond, we recognize that these collisions, though massive in energy, were dispersed over immense spatial and temporal scales, ensuring that the system remained coherent. And this awareness fosters trust in natural processes, showing that even events that seem disruptive do not necessarily result in chaos, but can coexist with stability. And as we visualize debris fields slowly orbiting, occasionally colliding and redistributing material, we sense a quiet persistence, a recycling of matter that sustains ongoing formation and evolution. And this cyclical, patient rhythm mirrors mental processes during sleep preparation, where thoughts, experiences, and emotions can be gently integrated without urgency. And as meteoroids enter planetary atmospheres, they do so as brief streaks of light, tiny bursts of energy absorbed without permanent disturbance, reminding us that transience and impermanence are natural, and that minor events, while noticeable, do not compromise the overall balance of the system. And this realization is calming, because it aligns with human experience. Small challenges, anxieties, or sudden changes can exist without disrupting long-term stability. And as we extend our view to comets from the distant Oort cloud, or scattered disk, gliding silently for eons before approaching the sun, the sheer patience and predictability of their orbits reinforces a sense of temporal calm, illustrating that even potentially dramatic encounters are governed by consistent principles. And this governance translates to mental ease, showing that predictability and structure underlie even seemingly chaotic phenomena. And as we imagine collisions that formed craters on Mars, or created asteroid families, we perceive energy release not as abrupt chaos, but as part of a long, measured sequence of redistribution, with mass, momentum, and energy flowing gradually. And this perception encourages a reflective mindset, allowing us to observe forces without anxiety, to perceive consequences without compulsion, and to recognize that natural order persists through cycles of impact, change, and adaptation. And as we consider near-Earth objects that occasionally approach our planet, the mind can dwell on distance, scale, and probability rather than fear, noticing that safety emerges from the vastness of space, the slow pace of movement, and the predictability of gravity. And this observation parallels mental relaxation, because it reassures that threats can exist without immediate danger, and that awareness combined with understanding is sufficient to maintain equilibrium. And as we imagine the surface of planets and moons, pockmarked with ancient craters, each telling a story of past collisions, we sense continuity, resilience, and the passage of time, a timeline so vast that individual events appear small and comprehensible. And this perception encourages mental release, allowing the mind to trace sequences, observe patterns, and accept impermanence without tension. And as comet tails, asteroid belts, and impact craters intersect visually in imagination, a gentle choreography emerges, a cosmic dance where objects influence one another subtly, without haste, force, or noise, and this choreography reinforces the idea that even within systems containing potential energy and occasional disruption, harmony is achievable, patience is natural, and motion is continuous yet calm. And as we extend this awareness to envision a spacecraft gliding past an asteroid, tracing its orbit, observing the delicate interplay of light and shadow across rugged surfaces, the mind is invited to settle, noticing details without urgency, and to absorb scale without pressure. And as planets continue their orbits, occasionally influenced by passing bodies, yet remaining largely undisturbed, a sense of enduring order emerges, showing that gravity, inertia, and distance combine to maintain stability, even amidst potential collisions. And this recognition is soothing, because it mirrors human experience, where guidance, structure, and patience allow complex systems, internal or external, to function smoothly. And as we imagine comet showers, meteor streaks, and the silent passage of minor bodies, each event is both spectacular and gentle, punctuating the dark of space with beauty, while leaving broader systems undisturbed. And this balance between drama and calm is deeply reassuring, because it demonstrates that life, energy, and movement can coexist with safety, order, and continuity. And as our mind drifts through these images of collisions, near misses, and gradual formation, a meditative cadence emerges, where observation, curiosity, and understanding flow effortlessly, guiding consciousness into a relaxed state. And as we envision billions of years of impact history compressed into slow, thoughtful reflection, the solar system appears as a harmonious, patient, and resilient entity, in which energy, change, and creativity unfold over time without haste, chaos, or threat. And this awareness translates into deep cognitive rest, preparing the mind for sleep, integrating curiosity, imagination, and relaxation into a gentle rhythm, night after night, where the universe continues its quiet, graceful collisions and creations, a cosmic lullaby of motion, patience, and calm, inviting thought, attention, and presence to drift safely along in the endless, reassuring flow of celestial time. As we shift our attention to the delicate interplay of light and shadow within the solar system, the phenomena of eclipses, transits, and occultations invite a deep contemplation of motion, timing, and the gentle alignment of celestial bodies. And as the moon drifts slowly along its orbit around Earth, periodically passing between our planet and the sun, it casts a shadow that moves gracefully across the surface, producing a solar eclipse, an event that is both dramatic and silent, awe-inspiring yet soothing when considered from a distance. And this quiet demonstration of cosmic geometry encourages reflection on the harmony inherent in orbital mechanics. The way precise positioning over millions of years creates patterns that repeat predictably, and as we imagine the gradual approach of the moon's shadow, inching across continents and oceans, the mind can follow the slow progression without urgency, appreciating how massive bodies interact with exactitude, while maintaining stability. And as the sunlight is partially or fully obscured, the sky's light softens, creating a temporary twilight that invites calm, introspection, and a gentle focus on the present moment. And this shift in illumination, while remarkable, is fleeting and predictable, offering a visual meditation on impermanence and order. And when we consider lunar eclipses, where Earth's own shadow drapes the moon in deep, slow, changing hues of copper and crimson, the phenomenon becomes a lesson in patience and timing, because the color transitions, subtle and continuous, occur over hours, allowing the observer to settle into rhythm with the motions of these distant objects. And this gradual transformation encourages the mind to release urgency, tracing the play of light across the lunar surface with slow, deliberate attention. And as planets like Venus or Mercury transit the sun, appearing as tiny dark disks moving imperceptibly against the solar glow, we observe the universe operating with precision, vast distances and gentle velocities coordinating perfectly to produce visible patterns without chaos. And this delicate balance fosters trust in the natural order, because it demonstrates that even minuscule events are part of a coherent, predictable system. And as the mind traces the transit's path across the sun, noting the subtle shadows and contrasts, awareness slows, curiosity persists without pressure, and the perception of space, distance, and timing expands, inviting a state of calm observation. And as occultations occur, where one celestial body passes in front of another, obscuring it partially or completely, the interaction between light, shadow, and motion becomes a visual lesson in subtlety, showing that one presence can influence another without force, dominating without disruption. And this principle mirrors restful cognition, where awareness of thoughts, emotions, and sensations can coexist without interference, each following its path in harmony. And as we imagine distant stars being temporarily hidden by closer objects, the mind can perceive both presence and absence simultaneously, noticing continuity even amidst apparent concealment. And this duality encourages reflection on impermanence, integration, and the gentle rhythms of the cosmos, because events that seem fleeting are part of long-term stability, unfolding with patience and precision. And when multiple eclipses, transits, and occultations are considered over centuries, patterns emerge, such as the Saros cycle, a repetition of similar alignments that demonstrates cosmic predictability. And this recurring rhythm fosters a sense of temporal calm, showing that immense celestial motions operate in cycles that extend beyond human lifetimes, offering perspective, continuity, and reassurance. And as we visualize the interplay of shadows across planets, moons, and stars, noticing how light bends, scatters, and fades, the scene becomes a dynamic yet gentle tapestry, teaching the mind that movement, influence, and change can occur gracefully, without abruptness. And as each celestial body follows its orbit, the eclipses and occultations recur naturally, demonstrating how order, geometry, and timing coexist within vast spaces. And this observation encourages mental rest, because it mirrors the way the brain can process complex information slowly, allowing patterns to emerge without strain or urgency. And as we imagine the observer on Earth during an eclipse, watching the shadows sweep across landscapes, oceans, and mountains, the mind connects with a universal rhythm, sensing participation in a larger system, yet feeling secure, detached, and at ease, because the event is predictable, measured, and non-threatening. And as twilight deepens and the corona glows faintly around the obscured sun, attention can rest on subtle luminance, tracing contours and shapes without tension, allowing the observer to experience wonder without anxiety. And as the eclipse continues, moving across time zones, regions, and continents, the mind follows along with patient observation, noting the gradual disappearance and return of light, the soft shifts in shadow, and the gentle return of normal illumination. And this cyclical process reinforces a sense of continuity, demonstrating that even dramatic visual events are temporary, balanced, and harmonized with larger rhythms. And as transits occur over decades or centuries, astronomers can track planetary motion, refine calculations, and predict future alignments, illustrating how knowledge, observation, and patience combine to bring clarity and understanding. And this methodical approach to comprehension mirrors a meditative practice, where attention flows gently over phenomena, integrating observation into awareness without agitation. And as occultations reveal details of distant objects hidden behind nearer ones, the interplay of concealment and revelation offers a soft lesson in perspective, showing that insight can emerge gradually, and that hidden aspects of a system contribute meaningfully to understanding even without immediate visibility. And as we expand this awareness to include the role of eclipses in cultural history, from ancient myths to modern scientific inquiry, we perceive that these natural rhythms have inspired reflection, curiosity, and reverence across civilizations. And this shared human experience reinforces connection, calm, and appreciation for continuity, demonstrating that observing order in nature can evoke restfulness and gentle contemplation. And as the moon, planets, and distant stars continue their orbits, producing shadows, transits, and occultations with clockwork precision. The solar system reveals itself as a system of measured motion, patient alignment, and quiet interaction, and this awareness fosters a state of deep, meditative observation, where the mind can drift through patterns of light and shadow, timing and movement, presence and absence, without strain or urgency. And as we imagine successive eclipses and transits stretching across millennia, the rhythm of celestial mechanics becomes a cosmic lullaby, a demonstration of continuity, balance, and subtle influence, teaching that even powerful bodies can interact without chaos, that shadows can pass without disruption, and that change and impermanence can exist within predictable frameworks. And as the mind absorbs this vision, attention softens, imagination flows gently, and consciousness drifts, guided by the slow, harmonious motion of planets, moons, and stars, where light, shadow, and distance merge into a peaceful, expansive meditation, allowing reflection, presence, and curiosity to coexist. And ultimately, the science of shadows, the eclipses, transits, and occultations, becomes a mirror for rest itself, a model of gentle timing, patient observation, and harmonious interaction that nurtures calm, invites reflection, and carries the mind toward deep, unhurried, cosmic sleep, as we shift our attention from celestial shadows to the silent, enduring remnants of the solar system's earliest formation. Meteorites and asteroids invite a contemplative journey through time, composition, and cosmic resilience, and as these small, rocky bodies drift through the vast emptiness of space, they carry within them the record of processes that occurred over 4.5 billion years ago, a quiet archive of the building blocks, from which planets, moons, and even life itself eventually emerged. And as we imagine each fragment, a meteorite perhaps once embedded within an asteroid, or an asteroid itself tracing a slow orbit around the sun, moving steadily through the void, there is a calming rhythm in the knowledge that these objects, though seemingly insignificant against the backdrop of planets and stars, hold stories older than Earth itself, and this realization invites reflection on longevity, persistence, and the gentle endurance of matter, because even small, solitary bodies can survive across vast spans of time without losing their integrity. And as we consider the diversity among asteroids, their varying sizes, shapes, compositions, and orbits, we observe a natural order in variety, where rocky cores, metallic fragments, and carbonaceous chondrites coexist within the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter, following paths determined by gravity and the subtle nudges of planetary influence. And this coexistence, stable yet diverse, provides a metaphor for balance, demonstrating that systems can accommodate difference while maintaining harmony. And as we imagine these bodies orbiting the sun, tracing their slow elliptical paths, some with slight tilts or eccentricities, the mind can follow without effort, noting the precision with which forces interact, the predictability of motion, and the quiet persistence of orbit. And this regularity is soothing, because it shows that even in vast, sparse regions, order prevails without the need for intervention. And as individual meteorites occasionally break free from their parent asteroids, drifting toward the inner solar system, they trace a gentle arc, a natural trajectory shaped by physics rather than force. And when they encounter Earth's atmosphere, the fiery descent is both dramatic and brief, a luminous reminder of their journey. Yet once the meteoroid slows and cools, to become a meteorite resting on Earth, the mind can contemplate the quiet endurance of rock that has survived cosmic conditions, collisions, and the passage through air, illustrating resilience without disruption. And as we examine the mineral composition of these meteorites, magnetite, olivine, pyroxene, and rare isotopes, we uncover clues about the chemical environment of the early solar system. Yet each piece is silent, immutable, and unhurried in its revelation. And this slow unveiling mirrors the process of reflective thought, where insight arrives gradually, without urgency, allowing awareness to drift gently through layers of understanding. And as we expand our focus to the asteroid belt itself, a vast region populated by millions of rocky bodies, The scale is simultaneously immense and quiet, a domain where mass and motion coexist without chaos, each asteroid following an orbit influenced by Jupiter's gravity, subtle collisions, and resonances, forming a stable system over billions of years. And this stability encourages a meditative perception, because it demonstrates that persistence, patience, and gentle interaction can maintain balance across immense complexity. And as we imagine the largest asteroids, Ceres, Vesta, Pallas, slowly rotating on their axes, their surfaces scarred by ancient impacts yet maintaining integrity, the mind can trace continuity and endurance, appreciating the interplay of fragility and resilience. And as smaller bodies weave among them, occasionally colliding and creating fragments that drift into new paths, the dynamic equilibrium of the belt becomes apparent, a system where motion, energy, and matter interact subtly yet harmoniously. And this interplay fosters reflection on the human mind, where small changes, minor thoughts, or gentle influences ripple across networks of awareness without disruption, allowing continuity and order to persist. And as meteorites fall to Earth, sometimes recognized as ordinary stones, other times as rare carbonaceous or iron-rich fragments, they connect us tangibly to the broader cosmos, serving as reminders that the processes shaping planets, stars, and life extend across unimaginable spans of time, yet their influence is subtle, pervasive, and enduring. And this connection nurtures perspective, calm, and the understanding that we, like these rocks, are part of a system far larger than immediate perception, moving along slow, determined paths, carrying history and potential within. And as we examine isotopic ratios in meteorites, revealing traces of early solar nebula, pre-solar grains, and radioactive decay, the mind can rest in the rhythm of gradual change, understanding that evolution, whether of matter or thought, occurs slowly, incrementally, and without rush. And as we observe asteroid families, clusters of bodies sharing similar orbits and compositions, the concept of lineage emerges, continuity preserved through dispersal, collisions, and gentle gravitational nudges, offering reassurance that structure can persist even amidst apparent randomness. And as we imagine near-Earth objects slowly passing by our planet, the awareness of proximity is tempered by the vastness of space and the predictability of their orbits, reinforcing the idea that even seemingly dangerous events are moderated by natural law, encouraging trust, patience, and calm observation. And within this quiet realm of rocks and fragments, comets may occasionally appear, their icy composition providing both contrast and connection, as they carry volatile compounds and dust, tracing luminous tails when warmed by the sun. And this gentle glow, transient yet continuous across centuries, reminds us that even ephemeral phenomena can follow predictable patterns, offering beauty, curiosity, and mental ease. And as we reflect on the solar system's oldest rocks, their resilience, persistence, and silent testimony to billions of years of cosmic history, become a meditation on patience, endurance, and subtle influence, showing that presence does not need drama, that motion does not need chaos, and that stability can coexist with diversity and impermanence. And as we integrate these observations into consciousness, the mind relaxes, tracing slow, deliberate paths through time, space, and matter, sensing connection to processes larger than life, unhurried yet profoundly influential. And ultimately, the study of meteorites and asteroids becomes a guide for restful awareness, offering models of gentle persistence, enduring structure, and quiet revelation, allowing imagination and reflection to drift freely, tracing the trajectories of rocks, fragments, and distant orbits across the silent, patient expanse of the solar system, a cosmic meditation that nurtures calm, curiosity, and deep, untroubled contemplation, night after night, as the universe continues its slow, precise, and harmonious rotation. As we turn our gaze from the solitary rocks of the solar system to the intricate ballet of moons around their planets, we enter a world where gravitational interaction, orbital resonance, and the subtle pull of tides create a rhythm that is at once delicate, continuous, and profoundly calming. And as we imagine these moons tracing their elliptical paths, moving silently yet predictably around gas giants and terrestrial planets alike, there is a sense of choreography, a cosmic dance in which each body moves according to precise natural laws, contributing to a harmonious system that unfolds slowly over days, months, and even centuries. And this harmony is soothing, because it demonstrates that motion can be governed by balance and gentle influence, rather than forceful control. And as we observe the tidal effects these moons exert on their host planets, raising bulges of oceans, subtly deforming solid crusts, and creating rhythmic patterns of energy, the mind can trace the ebb and flow of gravitational connection, feeling a resonance that mirrors the slow oscillations of breath or heartbeat. And as these tides respond to both the moon and the sun, combining, canceling, and reinforcing one another in complex yet predictable patterns, there emerges a model of coordination in which multiple forces interact without chaos, illustrating how systems, whether planetary or mental, can accommodate variation while maintaining equilibrium. And when we consider eclipses, moments when a moon passes precisely between its planet and a distant star or sun, casting shadows that drift slowly across surfaces, we recognize that even dramatic, seeming events unfold gently and temporarily, marking time without destabilizing the underlying structure. And this awareness encourages the mind to perceive change as natural, transient, and non-threatening, fostering patience and acceptance. And as shadows glide across oceans or planetary surfaces, stretching and contracting with the orbital motion, a visual rhythm emerges, a slow, flowing pattern that invites reflection, meditation, and gentle observation, because the dance of light and shadow can be traced without urgency, each motion predictable yet endlessly fascinating. And as we imagine moons locked in orbital resonances, their periods synchronized in precise ratios, creating tidal flexing, heat generation, and subtle shifts in rotation, we perceive a deeper layer of coordination, where gravitational interaction produces stability, energy distribution, and long-term resilience. And this level of order is reassuring, because it shows that complex interactions do not need to result in conflict, that predictability and structure can arise naturally from movement and influence. And as some moons induce volcanism, ice plumes, or magnetic effects on their host planets, the interplay of energy, matter, and motion demonstrates that even small bodies can produce meaningful, sustained impact without disruption, illustrating subtle power, gentle influence, and the possibility of effectiveness without force. And as we imagine the alignment of moons during rare syzygies, when several celestial bodies line up precisely, the resulting shadows, reflected light, and gravitational effects create a temporary, but elegant pattern, an ephemeral choreography that is observed across vast distances. And this fleeting alignment becomes a metaphor for balance, timing, and the harmony of multiple forces converging, reminding the mind that order and beauty often emerge through patience, alignment, and subtle interaction. And as tides rise and fall along coastlines, influenced by lunar pull and modulated by the sun, the cyclical nature of water's motion becomes a gentle meditation on rhythm, persistence, and the continuity of natural processes, allowing the mind to synchronize with these slow, consistent patterns, tracing each cycle as a wave of calm, flowing inward and outward, in harmony with the universe. And as moons cast penumbral shadows during partial eclipses or full, dramatic umbral darkness during total eclipses, we recognize that light and shadow coexist, creating contrast, relief, and depth, illustrating that extremes can exist in balance without destabilization. And this understanding supports emotional and mental relaxation, showing that darkness is temporary, light returns, and transitions are integral to a larger system that remains stable. And as we imagine the rotation of planetary systems, with moons tugging gently at atmospheres, oceans, and even tectonic plates, a sense of interconnectedness emerges, revealing that each motion contributes subtly to the whole, that influence can be pervasive yet gentle, and that the rhythm of one body can guide the motion of another, a lesson in coordination, patience, and trust in natural order. And as we extend this awareness to moons of distant planets, icy satellites, and irregular captured bodies orbiting slowly and predictably, the mind can expand into an appreciation of universal symmetry, calm cycles, and slow, purposeful motion, recognizing that even bodies far removed from immediate perception maintain their own rhythm and coherence. And as eclipses, tides, and shadows recur across years and centuries, they offer markers of continuity, natural clocks that link observation, memory, and anticipation, creating temporal patterns that anchor awareness. And this anchoring supports restful cognition, because it allows the mind to follow a predictable cadence, releasing tension and embracing patience. And as some moons interact with planetary rings, shepherding particles, creating gaps, waves, and subtle resonances, the delicate influence of small bodies on massive structures becomes evident, highlighting that quiet guidance and consistent patterns can shape larger systems without force. And this principle mirrors human mental processes, where gentle attention, steady focus, and patient influence produce coherence, balance, and calm, without abrupt intervention. And as we imagine the interplay of light, shadow, tidal bulges, orbital resonance, and rotational motion across moons and planets, a vast and intricate tapestry of slow, moving phenomena unfolds, a pattern of harmony, persistence, and measured energy. And within this observation, the mind finds solace, because the universe demonstrates that complexity does not require haste, that systems can remain stable amidst motion, and that influence can be subtle yet effective. And as nights pass with eclipses, tides, and shifting shadows continuing their patient dance, the awareness of this slow, predictable rhythm fosters a deep, meditative sense of connection, reminding us that our own internal rhythms, breath, heartbeat, thought, can synchronize with these cosmic cadences, yielding calm, focus, and readiness for rest. And as the moons drift through their cycles, casting shadows, lifting tides, and guiding planetary rotation, the entire system becomes a model of serene balance, demonstrating that motion and stability, change and continuity, intensity and calm, can coexist seamlessly, offering an enduring lesson for the mind, body, and spirit, and allowing us, as observers and participants in this vast, gentle dance, to relax into the quiet, patient, and harmonious flow of the universe, night after night, across eons, a cosmic lullaby of gravitation, illumination, and tranquil movement. As we shift our attention from the distant choreography of moons and tides to the ethereal glow that graces the polar skies, the aurora emerges as a quiet, mesmerizing phenomenon, a soft curtain of color that dances above Earth in response to invisible solar winds and magnetic fields. And as charged particles from the sun spiral along magnetic lines toward the poles, they collide gently with molecules in the atmosphere, releasing bursts of light in green, red, violet, and blue. And this interaction, though energetic, unfolds in a subtle, graceful manner, a spectacle that is slow, continuous, and deeply hypnotic. And as the aurora ripples, folds, and sways across the sky, it evokes the feeling of watching a vast, living tapestry, where motion is predictable yet endlessly variable, offering the mind a gentle visual rhythm, a continuous, flowing wave of illumination that encourages reflection, patience, and a profound sense of calm. And as these curtains of light shimmer above icy landscapes, mountains, and quiet waters, the interplay of color and movement is softened by distance, absorption, and atmospheric diffusion, creating gradients that fade gradually rather than appearing abruptly. And this gradual transition aligns perfectly with mental relaxation, allowing attention to drift naturally without urgency or strain. And as auroras stretch from horizon to horizon, arcs rise, bend, and merge slowly, tracing invisible magnetic pathways that guide their motion. And this magnetic choreography is a quiet reminder of invisible structures shaping the visible world, suggesting that unseen forces can maintain harmony, rhythm, and balance without intrusive disruption. And as we consider the timing of auroral displays, which depend on solar storms, geomagnetic activity, and local atmospheric conditions. We appreciate the patience inherent in nature, for these displays do not occur on demand, yet when they arrive, they unfold in a deliberate, gentle manner, and this unpredictability, balanced by the slow, flowing patterns of light, mirrors human experience, showing that anticipation need not cause tension, that beauty can arrive without pressure, and that moments of wonder can exist within a stable, predictable system. And as the colors shift subtly from green to crimson to violet, we observe a dance of energy, wavelength, and altitude, where each photon released tells a story of distant solar processes interacting with our planet's magnetic shield. And this story, though complex, is communicated softly, without loudness or harshness, inviting observation without urgency, and as curtains ripple, spirals form, and waves undulate across the sky, the motion can be traced with the eyes or imagined in the mind, creating a meditative experience in which movement is continuous, connected, and harmonious. And as we consider the science behind these lights, the collision of electrons with oxygen and nitrogen atoms, the resulting excitation and emission of photons, and the magnetic funneling that guides their paths, the mind appreciates a system of cause and effect that is elegant, predictable, and balanced, illustrating that energy can flow dynamically while maintaining coherence, and that motion need not be chaotic to be expressive. And as auroral arcs stretch higher, reaching toward the edge of space where the ionosphere meets the vacuum, there is a sense of expansiveness, a connection between Earth and the wider cosmos. And this vertical extension invites the imagination to travel along magnetic lines, drifting with the currents, and absorbing the subtle energy flows that create color, movement, and pattern. And as we imagine observing the aurora over hours, seeing shifts in intensity, shape, and hue, a temporal rhythm emerges, slow and continuous, offering a mental cadence that encourages deep, reflective breathing, gentle focus, and the release of tension. And as auroral curtains bend, twist, and fold back upon themselves, the brain can follow the fluid, spiral patterns, tracing curves, gradients, and flows, all while remaining passive and calm, absorbing complexity without being overwhelmed. And when auroral coronas form overhead, radiating from a central point near the magnetic pole, the experience is one of quiet symmetry, an alignment that is both intricate and reassuring, demonstrating that even complex interactions can produce beauty and coherence rather than chaos. And as auroras fade gradually, leaving the night sky quiet once more, we recognize that their presence, though temporary, has lasting impact on perception, inspiring awe, wonder, and a sense of connection with forces beyond immediate control. And this impermanence reinforces relaxation, because it encourages acceptance of change, the beauty of transience, and the gentle flow of time. And as we reflect on the role of the sun in producing these lights, its constant emission of charged particles, solar flares, and coronal mass ejections, traveling millions of kilometers to interact with Earth's magnetosphere, the mind appreciates a system of action and reaction that is expansive yet gentle, distant yet influential, and this perspective fosters patience, trust, and a sense of being supported by unseen yet consistent forces. And as auroras illuminate frozen landscapes, shimmering lakes, or snow-covered forests, the interaction of reflection, refraction, and diffusion creates subtle secondary effects, softening edges, blending colors, and enhancing depth. And this visual blending is naturally soothing, because it offers a continuous, flowing field for the eyes to follow, minimizing sharp contrasts and cognitive tension. And as we imagine witnessing auroras from multiple perspectives, on a boat drifting across icy seas, from a mountaintop, or from space, the multiplicity of vantage points enhances awareness of scale, depth, and relational motion, reinforcing a sense of being embedded within a larger, harmonious system. And as particles continue to spiral along magnetic lines, recombining and emitting light over extended periods, the mind can trace their slow, continuous journey, synchronizing with the gentle cadence of auroral motion. And as the night progresses, auroras may ebb and flow, intensify or fade, yet always within the envelope of predictable physical law, providing a model of calm variability, change within continuity, and dynamic stability. And as observers, humans are drawn to notice, to appreciate, yet not disrupt, experiencing awe without urgency, and as the lights of the aurora trace invisible pathways of the magnetosphere, we recognize that forces beyond immediate perception shape our visible world, that complexity can be coherent, and that influence can be profound even when subtle. And this realization mirrors restful cognition, in which awareness, observation, and reflection operate without exertion, without intrusion, producing calm and equilibrium. And as auroral arcs bend, twist, fold, and fade across the night sky, a sense of timeless rhythm emerges, a gentle, continuous cadence that encourages deep relaxation, patient focus, and the gradual release of tension. And as we imagine drifting beneath these soft, colored waves of light, the mind follows without effort, tracing patterns, absorbing energy, and synchronizing with a larger, patient system. And ultimately, the aurora becomes a cosmic lullaby, a slow, expansive, harmonious phenomenon that models patience, gentle motion, balance, and the serene interaction of forces across space, offering a nightly meditation for the mind, body, and spirit, guiding observers toward reflection, calm, and deep, unhurried sleep beneath the endless, ever-changing, yet profoundly stable lights at the edge of night. As we turn our awareness from the luminous motion of stars and the ethereal glow of auroras to the profound, encompassing silence of space, we begin to appreciate an aspect of the universe that is both invisible and pervasive, a quiet that exists not as the absence of sound alone, but as the absence of pressure, of interruption, of forced engagement. And this silence, though absolute in its physical context, where sound cannot propagate through the vacuum, translates metaphorically into a mental state that is restorative, expansive, and deeply calming, because it demonstrates that spaces devoid of immediate stimulus allow processes, physical, emotional, and cognitive, to unfold naturally, without strain or expectation. And as we imagine floating beyond Earth, beyond the atmosphere, beyond the magnetic shield that separates our sensory experience from the cosmos, we sense the immense scale of emptiness, where distances between stars, planets, and galaxies stretch across light years. And this vastness, while conceptually overwhelming, offers reassurance, because it reminds us that life, motion, and existence need not be hurried, that space itself embodies patience, continuity, and endurance. And as we reflect on the physics that create this silence, the absence of medium for sound waves, the near-perfect vacuum, and the minimal density of particles, the mind recognizes a system of order, consistency, and predictable laws that maintain tranquility, even amid immense energy flows. For electromagnetic radiation, gravity, and cosmic winds move through this void, without creating noise in the way we perceive on Earth. And this distinction reinforces the idea that influence and presence do not require intrusion, that force can exist without agitation, and that powerful processes can unfold quietly, consistently, and with purpose, a lesson mirrored in mental rest, where thought, memory, and reflection can continue without the clamor of external stimulation. And as we imagine drifting through this silent realm, past distant nebulae, spinning galaxies, and isolated stars, we begin to perceive a rhythm in the void, a subtle cadence of motion and energy, imperceptible in timeframes familiar to human experience, yet steady, reliable, and encompassing. And this awareness of rhythm without sound encourages meditative focus, slow breathing, and a gradual settling of the mind, as it aligns with patterns that are inherently ordered and calm. And within this cosmic silence, there is also perspective. We realize that human life, while rich in sensory input, is nested within a universe that operates on scales vastly beyond daily perception, that complexity and motion coexist with stillness, and that being part of a larger, quiet system allows release of the need to control, manage, or resolve every observation, event, or emotion. And as astronauts describe the profound quiet of space, the absence of the familiar hums, vibrations, and reverberations of earthly life. The mind imagines similar internal experiences, moments when thought can drift without attachment, when reflection occurs without urgency, and when awareness can expand freely, absorbing both vastness and detail simultaneously. And as we consider the mechanisms that allow this silence to exist, from the near vacuum of interstellar space to the isolation of distant orbits, we recognize that separation, moderation, and distance contribute to tranquility, and that the same principles can apply to mental, emotional, and environmental conditions, fostering calm through gentle boundaries, measured exposure, and patient observation. And as we observe light traveling through this silence, photons emitted by stars, nebulae, and galaxies, uninterrupted by medium or interference, we sense that even in motion, silence persists, that activity need not be noisy, and that order and balance can maintain serenity despite energy flows. And this understanding reassures the mind that engagement, influence, and creation can coexist with rest, stillness, and reflection. And as we imagine the sensation of weightlessness, the absence of vibration, and the quiet drift through cosmic distances, there is an embodied lesson in non-resistance, an invitation to let go of tension, control, and urgency, and to float within the natural rhythm of life and the universe, guided gently by laws of motion and gravity, rather than forceful intervention. And as we consider the human capacity to internalize this silence, to extend awareness into the mind's own vacuum spaces where thought slows, perception softens, and awareness deepens, we see that silence in space can act as a template for mental and emotional calm, teaching that rest does not require complete inactivity, but rather the absence of overwhelming input, the presence of structure, and the freedom to drift within stable parameters. And as our imagination travels from the inner solar system to the outer reaches of the galaxy, past spinning disks, halo stars, and isolated nebulae, we notice that silence exists at every scale, from the near vacuum between planets to the almost unimaginable expanses separating galaxies. And this nested silence provides a multi-layered model for relaxation, where layers of perception, thought, and emotion can exist without interference, aligning in slow, deliberate harmony. And as we observe magnetic fields, cosmic rays, and interstellar gas moving silently through this space, guided by invisible rules, we perceive the subtle interaction of forces without noise or conflict, reinforcing the idea that even activity, motion, and influence can be gentle, indirect, and non-disruptive, a lesson that nurtures patience, acceptance, and trust in natural processes. And as we imagine gazing at the Earth from orbit, surrounded by quiet, dark void punctuated by distant points of light, there is a sense of contrast and balance. The vibrancy of life below juxtaposed with the serenity of cosmic silence above. And this duality provides a template for mindfulness, helping the mind to observe, to detach, and to release tension while maintaining connection. And as time expands in this silent perception, seconds, hours, and days feel elongated, encouraging reflection, slow breathing, and an awareness of the gradual passage of events, the gentle accumulation of change, and the continuity of processes. And within this awareness, mental tension dissolves, thoughts settle, and the mind can float in spaciousness, embracing both the subtle motions of particles and stars, and the vast stillness of emptiness. And as we imagine the human experience of listening to this silence internally, the absence of noise becomes a container for imagination, visualization, and calm reflection, reinforcing the restorative power of quiet, patience, and uninterrupted observation. And as we drift deeper into this meditation on cosmic silence, we notice that space teaches not only stillness, but perspective, that all events, worries, and tasks are embedded within a much larger, enduring system, and that being part of a reliable, orderly framework allows release, trust, and repose. And as we imagine billions of years passing in imperceptible silence, stars forming and dying, galaxies rotating, and cosmic matter shifting along invisible paths, the mind internalizes the rhythm of patient continuity, understanding that life, thought, and energy can flow persistently, harmoniously, and without urgency, and this internalization becomes a model for deep rest, meditation, and restorative sleep, offering a sense of expansive calm, gentle reassurance, and trust in the enduring order of the universe, night after night, as cosmic silence cradles mind, body, and spirit within its vast, serene embrace. As we drift from the vast silence of space and the rhythmic harmony of galactic structures, our attention turns to the elements themselves, the very building blocks of matter that, forged in the hearts of stars, travel across unimaginable distances to become the foundation of planets, life, and consciousness. And in contemplating this cosmic alchemy, we discover a story that unfolds over billions of years, a tale of transformation, patience, and quiet persistence that resonates with the rhythms of the mind and body, because it demonstrates that creation is not instantaneous, that complexity arises from incremental accumulation, and that even the most intricate systems begin from humble beginnings. For hydrogen, the simplest and most abundant element, combines with helium through nuclear fusion in stellar cores, releasing energy that lights the galaxy, and gradually producing heavier elements such as carbon, oxygen, nitrogen, and iron, and these elements, once ejected by supernovae, planetary nebulae, or stellar winds, drift slowly through interstellar space, carried along by gravity, radiation pressure, and galactic rotation, forming clouds of gas and dust that may take millions of years to coalesce into new stars and planetary systems. And this patient, cyclical process of formation, destruction, and reformation exemplifies a universe in which time, persistence, and gradual change shape outcomes, a lesson that is mirrored in the human mind when we seek calm, growth, and understanding, because it shows that creation, whether of stars, planets, or ideas, does not require urgency, that complexity emerges naturally through persistent, gentle accumulation. And as we imagine these clouds of stardust drifting through spiral arms, illuminated faintly by distant stars, we sense that the material from which life will eventually arise is ancient, recycled, and connected across space and time, linking every atom in our bodies to the fusion processes that occurred in stars billions of years before the Earth existed. And this awareness fosters a profound sense of continuity, perspective, and belonging, because it situates human life within the vast, slow, moving cycles of the cosmos, emphasizing that we are participants in a system guided by consistent laws, enduring rhythms, and patient transformation. And as the heavier elements, forged in the cataclysmic death throes of massive stars, mix into interstellar clouds, they provide the chemical richness necessary for planets, atmospheres, oceans, and life itself, showing that even the most violent processes, when integrated into larger cycles, contribute to creation, harmony, and balance. And this duality, destruction as a prelude to creation, energy release as a source of matter, offers a model for reflection and rest, demonstrating that endings need not be feared, that transformation can be gentle in its ultimate outcome, and that continuity arises from integration, rather than interruption. And as we visualize these elements settling into protoplanetary disks around newborn stars, gradually forming planets, moons, and comets, we sense that even planetary formation is a slow, deliberate, and patient process, requiring stability, consistent motion, and the interaction of countless particles over millions of years. And this patient unfolding mirrors the way consciousness can grow, integrate, and evolve, suggesting that awareness, thought, and creativity flourish when processes are allowed to operate naturally, and without pressure. And as we focus on the transition from elemental clouds to living matter, we notice how elements like carbon, oxygen, nitrogen, and phosphorus, once scattered across space, combine on early Earth to form the complex molecules of life, amino acids, nucleotides, and lipids, demonstrating that life itself emerges not from randomness alone, but from order, chemistry, and consistent environmental conditions. And this emergence illustrates the interplay between chance and law, energy and structure, highlighting that even in seemingly chaotic environments, subtle guidance and consistent principles enable complex, harmonious outcomes, and as molecules aggregate into primitive cells, and cells evolve into more complex organisms, the same patient rhythm of cosmic transformation is reflected at every scale, showing that patterns repeat, that systems build upon prior structures, and that growth occurs through accumulation, adaptation, and incremental refinement. And this recognition encourages a mental state of trust, patience, and calm, because it shows that progress need not be rushed, that complexity need not be forced, and that the long-term unfolding of processes, whether cosmic, biological, or personal, naturally results in coherence, resilience, and beauty. And as we imagine the stardust within our own bodies, the elements that compose our bones, blood, and neurons, we feel a connection not only to the earth, but to every star that ever lived and died, a link across time and space that is at once humbling and comforting, because it reminds us that we are both fragile and enduring, transient and part of something vast, stable, and persistent. And as we contemplate the slow diffusion of elements through galaxies, their incorporation into nebulae, stars, and planetary systems, we recognize that nothing is wasted, that energy and matter are continually transformed, recycled, and reintegrated, and this eternal flow offers a metaphor for thought, memory, and emotion, suggesting that mental and emotional energy, when allowed to circulate and transform gently, supports clarity, calm, and resilience. And as we consider the chemical diversity enabled by these processes, from the simplest hydrogen atom to complex organic molecules, we appreciate that richness arises from interaction, variation, and time, and this principle reassures the mind that complexity can coexist with order, that diversity contributes to harmony, and that the integration of multiple influences can create systems that are both stable and fertile. And as we reflect on the long journeys of stardust, from stellar core to interstellar cloud, to planetary formation, to life itself, we perceive a rhythm of patience, continuity, and connection that spans billions of years, and this perception fosters a meditative state, where attention can drift, curiosity can persist without urgency, and the mind can feel both expansive and grounded simultaneously. And as our imagination traces atoms from supernovae to our own cells, from distant nebulae to the oceans, forests, and skies of Earth, we sense a profound continuity that reassures the mind, supporting reflection, introspection, and ultimately rest. And as life evolves, interacts, and diversifies on Earth, we understand that the chemical foundations laid by stars continue to guide development, providing both the material and the framework for ongoing transformation. And this awareness mirrors the experience of mental quietude, where stability, order, and the slow accumulation of insight create the conditions for deep rest, rejuvenation, and gentle creativity. And as we imagine ourselves breathing, thinking, and existing within this continuum of stardust, life, and cosmic rhythm, a profound sense of belonging emerges, a recognition that we are part of a system governed by law, sustained by patience, and enriched by gradual accumulation. And this sense of embeddedness, of intimate connection to the universe's slow, persistent processes, encourages calm, introspection, and deep sleep, because it situates human life within a vast, enduring, and harmonious framework, where creation, energy, and presence exist without urgency, disruption, or fear. And as we drift further in imagination through the galaxy, tracing stardust from distant nebulae to living organisms, we perceive that every atom, every molecule, every interaction, carries the imprint of cosmic patience, continuity, and gentle transformation. And this perception nurtures mental rest, emotional balance, and contemplative reflection, allowing the mind and body to align with the universe's quiet, deliberate, and eternal rhythm, a rhythm that cradles consciousness, supports life, and inspires trust in the persistent, creative, and harmonious processes of existence. Night after night, across billions of years, as stardust continues its journey, forming stars, planets, life, and consciousness, a lullaby of matter, energy, and time, an infinite and gentle embrace that carries all within it toward rest, renewal, and awe, inspiring calm. as we lift our attention from the slow, patient journeys of stardust to the subtle, ephemeral displays of light in Earth's upper atmosphere, we enter the mesmerizing domain of auroras, natural phenomena that occur when charged particles from the sun interact with Earth's magnetic field and atmospheric gases, producing curtains of glowing color that drift and ripple across polar skies. And in contemplating auroras, we find a story of connection, rhythm, and delicate balance, because these lights are neither chaotic nor hurried, but arise from interactions that are consistent, predictable, and gentle, revealing the dynamic interplay between solar winds, magnetic fields, and atmospheric composition. And as solar particles stream outward from the sun, they travel vast distances through the vacuum of space, their energy moderated by the magnetosphere, a protective envelope that channels and guides their motion toward the poles. And this invisible framework ensures that the auroras unfold in patterns that are both fluid and harmonious, demonstrating that influence need not be intrusive. That energy can be directed without force, and that beauty can emerge from the alignment of natural systems. And as we imagine standing beneath an auroral display, the mind is drawn to the slow, undulating movements of the luminous curtains, the shifting greens, reds, purples, and blues blending softly as they follow invisible lines of magnetic force. And this gentle motion resonates with the rhythms of breath, thought, and circulation, inviting a meditative state where attention floats without strain. And as the auroras evolve across the night sky, expanding, contracting, and pulsating in time with geomagnetic storms, there is a profound lesson in patience and responsiveness, because the lights react to distant solar activity without haste, adapting to energy input gradually, demonstrating that natural systems can adjust dynamically while maintaining harmony. And this principle mirrors the human mind, suggesting that awareness, emotion, and creativity can flow fluidly in response to external stimuli without disruption, fostering calm, observation, and trust. And as we consider the different colors of the aurora, we recognize that they arise from specific interactions between charged particles and atmospheric atoms, oxygen producing greens and reds, nitrogen generating blues and purples, each reaction slow enough to create gentle illumination rather than abrupt flashes. And this selective process highlights that complexity and beauty emerge through careful, subtle interaction rather than sudden force, a calming principle that encourages reflection on how small inputs over time can produce enduring and harmonious outcomes. And as these lights sway and shimmer across the horizon, the mind can trace their curves, dips, and arcs, noticing patterns without needing to control them, following the gentle choreography of physics and chemistry that unfolds unseen yet perfectly orchestrated. And the spatial scale of auroras, extending hundreds of kilometers along the polar regions, provides both awe and perspective, reminding observers of their place within a planetary and cosmic system, where immense forces operate quietly, guiding outcomes without intrusion. And this sense of scale encourages humility, release of daily pressures, and an alignment of attention with natural rhythms, allowing consciousness to expand while settling into contemplative ease. And as we observe auroras over time, noting their seasonal prevalence, the influence of solar cycles, and the subtle shifts in magnetic intensity, we see that these lights are a dance choreographed by time, distance, and energy, unfolding in a slow, deliberate cadence that mirrors the patient rotation of the Earth itself. And this temporal alignment reinforces a sense of continuity, stability, and reassurance, because we recognize that natural processes operate predictably and reliably, offering a backdrop against which human thought can rest, wander, and rejuvenate. And within the auroral forms, we notice fine structures such as rays, bands, and coronas, patterns that emerge from variations in particle density and magnetic configuration, illustrating that order can arise even within variability, that structure can emerge amidst apparent randomness, and that harmony is possible when forces are balanced and consistent. And this observation mirrors mental processes, suggesting that clarity, insight, and calm can develop even amid complexity, that patterns can be traced without pressure, and that attention can flow naturally along contours set by external and internal dynamics, and as auroral displays often occur in remote, quiet polar regions, the environment itself amplifies their calming effect, because the stillness of snow, ice, and open sky provides a visual and auditory contrast that enhances perception, slows cognition, and encourages mindfulness, and even the faint reflection of auroral light on ice and snow creates a gentle feedback loop, where the eyes perceive movement, the mind registers continuity, and the body relaxes in response to both, and this multisensory engagement, subtle and gradual, mirrors optimal conditions for sleep, rest, and reflection, where stimuli guide attention without overwhelming, and as we imagine watching auroras over extended periods, hours of gentle movement reveal both micro variations in brightness and macro patterns across the sky, a duality that encourages the mind to observe both detail and context, integrating perception into a holistic, calm awareness, and the predictability of their movement along magnetic field lines provides reassurance that even dynamic systems follow rules, that forces, when consistent, create order and beauty without requiring intervention, and as auroral curtains merge and fold, rise and fall, the sense of flow becomes palpable, a visual lullaby that aligns with the natural rhythms of breath, heart rate, and neural activity, and as the mind tracks the gentle pulse of light, stress, tension, and urgency can be released, replaced by trust in the constancy of natural processes, and the patient unfolding of energy, and considering the origin of auroras in the sun's activity, we are reminded of the interconnection of cosmic and planetary systems, that distant events influence local phenomena subtly, predictably, and harmoniously, and this knowledge encourages a reflective state, where one can feel embedded in larger cycles of energy, time, and motion without feeling small, overwhelmed, or disconnected. And as auroral light dances above the horizon, painting the sky with graceful, transient forms, the mind can synchronize with its pace, following arcs, ribbons, and flickers in a slow, rhythmic observation, and this engagement fosters meditative calm, patience, and deep visual absorption, allowing mental energy to settle, awareness to expand gently, and consciousness to drift toward quiet rest, and as the night progresses, auroral displays often wane gradually, a slow tapering that mirrors the natural progression from wakefulness to sleep, from activity to stillness, reinforcing the concept that endings can occur softly, that transitions can be gentle, and that even the most vibrant displays eventually return to calm without abruptness. And within this gentle fade, we recognize the beauty of patience, the effectiveness of subtle influence, and the importance of enduring rhythms, and as we imagine auroras over millennia, shaped by solar cycles, magnetic variations, and planetary rotation, we see a slow, harmonious interplay of forces that transcends human timescales yet can still influence perception, awareness, and imagination, and this awareness encourages a profound mental relaxation, because it demonstrates that systems of immense energy, scale, and complexity can operate quietly, predictably, and beautifully, providing a model for human thought, rest, and presence. And as we trace each curve of auroral light, reflect on the slow journey of particles from the sun, and recognize the role of Earth's magnetic shield, we are invited into a state of calm wonder, where observation is effortless, awareness is expansive, and the mind can drift freely, cradled in the steady, luminous rhythm of the cosmos. Night after night, as auroras continue to dance at the edge of darkness, offering a living, breathing lullaby of energy, motion, color, and harmony, a celestial guide for contemplation, relaxation, and deep, unhurried sleep, as we turn our gaze from the soft, luminous displays of auroras to the subtler interplay of light and shadow within our solar system, we enter the realm of eclipses, transits, and occultations, phenomena where celestial bodies align in precise geometric relationships, temporarily blocking or dimming light from stars, planets, or the sun itself, and in observing these events, we discover a universe of rhythm, timing, and delicate coordination, where massive forces operate predictably, silently, and without disruption, providing a model for natural balance that resonates with mental calm and rest. And as the moon passes between Earth and the sun during a solar eclipse, a remarkable interplay occurs. Light is gradually obscured, shadows stretch across landscapes, and the corona glows faintly around the lunar silhouette, a visual display that is both dynamic and gentle, because the process unfolds over minutes rather than seconds, allowing attention to drift slowly along the transition. And this gradual change encourages observation without strain, a meditation on impermanence, timing, and harmony. And as sunlight filters through the rugged lunar terrain, creating subtle shadow bands known as Bailey's beads, we are reminded that even within seeming obscurity, beauty and complexity persist, that patterns emerge naturally when conditions align, and that imperfection and detail enrich experience rather than diminish it. And as the eclipse progresses to totality, the sudden dimming, though dramatic in contrast to ordinary daylight, is a profound lesson in patience and anticipation, because it only occurs after hours of precise orbital motion, illustrating that outcomes of immense visual and emotional impact often result from long, imperceptible preparation. And this principle mirrors the rhythm of thought and rest, where insight, calm, or resolution arises not from abrupt effort but from slow, cumulative processes. And as stars and planets become visible in the dim sky, constellations that were obscured by daylight emerge gently, their presence reinforcing the notion that temporary absence does not equate to disappearance, that phenomena can recur predictably, and that the cosmos operates with both order and mystery, a combination that encourages reflective calm, quiet awe, and a sense of participation within a larger system. And as totality wanes and light returns gradually, the transition back to normalcy is equally gentle, demonstrating that endings, like beginnings, need not be abrupt or stressful. And this natural progression offers reassurance, teaching that cycles, whether cosmic or personal, unfold according to intrinsic patterns, maintaining continuity while allowing transformation. And in parallel, lunar and planetary transits, where a planet such as Venus or Mercury crosses the face of the sun as seen from Earth, illustrate similar principles on a smaller scale, with subtle silhouettes gliding across a luminous disk, motion that is imperceptible without careful attention yet entirely precise, reminding us that vast distances, scale, and relative motion can create effects that are quiet, ordered, and meditative when observed slowly and attentively. And these events also underscore the predictability inherent in celestial mechanics, the clockwork motion of planets and moons governed by gravity, inertia, and orbital resonance, a system that functions with elegance, consistency, and subtlety, providing a model for mental rest where awareness can follow patterns without urgency, trust emerges naturally, and tension is softened by recognition of reliability. And as we consider occultations, where one celestial body passes in front of another, hiding it temporarily from view, we encounter yet another example of cosmic choreography, a shadow play that emphasizes timing, alignment, and perspective, illustrating that events of great consequence can occur quietly, imperceptibly, and without disturbance to the surrounding environment. And as astronomers use these moments to measure diameters, distances, and atmospheres, we are reminded that even transient phenomena hold valuable information, that careful observation of subtle transitions yields understanding, and that patience and focus allow insight to emerge. And these lessons echo in the mind, providing reassurance that reflection, attention, and gentle awareness can uncover depth without exertion. And as the moon's shadow glides across the Earth during a solar eclipse, traveling at speeds exceeding thousands of kilometers per hour, we are struck by the harmony of motion across immense scales, where vast energy, distance, and velocity combine to produce effects that are observable, predictable, and aesthetically captivating. And yet, despite their magnitude, these events are safe, measured, and contained, illustrating that intensity does not imply danger, and that systems can operate with both power and calm. And as we imagine observing eclipses from remote locations, beneath vast skies, with cool winds and quiet surroundings, attention drifts naturally, the mind settles into reflective observation, and the body responds to gentle stimuli, the shifting light, lengthening shadows, and subtle temperature changes, aligning internal rhythms with external cycles. And this sensory synchronization fosters relaxation, meditative calm, and readiness for rest. And as we consider the repetition of eclipses, their predictability through cycles such as the Saros, we see a universe that is not chaotic but orderly, where timing, alignment, and consistency produce phenomena of lasting significance, a principle that applies equally to daily life and mental patterns, reinforcing trust in cycles, patience with process, and the natural unfolding of events. And as planetary transits provide opportunities for observation with specialized instruments, we appreciate that attention to detail, careful measurement, and quiet engagement reveal hidden structures and motions, a reminder that subtlety, persistence, and calm focus yield insight without force. And as light is temporarily blocked during occultations, we sense the gentle interplay of presence and absence, illumination and shadow, which offers a meditation on impermanence, awareness and balance, demonstrating that absence need not create alarm, that transition can be smooth, and that alignment within systems produces harmony, even when individual components are temporarily hidden. And as we imagine the interplay of sun, moon, planets, and earth across centuries, following paths determined by gravity, inertia, and cosmic rhythm, a profound sense of scale emerges, situating human life within a vast framework where cycles repeat, motion is predictable, and continuity prevails. And this awareness encourages mental release, a letting go of urgency, a suspension of tension, and a deep attunement to natural rhythm. And as the mind drifts along these patterns, tracing the gentle passage of shadows across landscapes, observing faint silhouettes against brilliant disks, and noting the imperceptible, yet precise motion of distant worlds, relaxation deepens, focus softens, and consciousness merges with the slow, elegant rhythm of celestial mechanics. And in this meditative state, eclipses, transits, and occultations transform from mere phenomena into guides for patience, observation, trust, and calm, a cosmic lullaby where shadow and light teach rhythm, alignment, and gentle power, offering the mind a model for deep, unhurried contemplation, reflection, and rest. Night after night, across the vast stage of the solar system, a serene play of alignment, motion, and balance that invites the observer into a state of quiet awe, wonder, and profound mental ease, a celestial narrative of timing, presence, and graceful interplay that mirrors the rhythm of breath, thought, and consciousness itself. As we shift our focus from the gentle illumination of distant stars to the subtle dance of shadows within our solar system, eclipses, transits, and occultations present themselves as cosmic events where light, motion, and alignment converge to produce phenomena that are at once predictable, serene, and awe-inspiring. And in observing these occurrences, the mind encounters the delicate interplay between visibility and absence, light and darkness, presence and temporary concealment, offering a meditative framework for understanding the universe. And as the moon gradually slides between Earth and the sun during a solar eclipse, the sunlight dims slowly, shadows stretch across landscapes, and the ethereal solar corona glimmers faintly around the lunar silhouette, a quiet display that unfolds over minutes rather than seconds, allowing the observer's attention to drift gently, tracing subtle changes rather than reacting abruptly. And this measured unfolding encourages patience, reflection, and a softening of cognitive tension, as the brain follows patterns that are orderly, consistent, and inherently rhythmic. And as Bailey's beads appear, sunlight filtering through the moon's rugged mountains, the eye perceives tiny, fleeting glimmers of light that remind us of precision, complexity, and imperfection coexisting in harmony, showing that beauty arises not only from the fully illuminated, but also from nuanced interplay between light and obstruction. And as totality approaches, the sky darkens further, stars faintly appear, and the surrounding environment responds with subtle temperature shifts and quietude, creating a sensory experience that blends visual, auditory, and tactile perception into a holistic, calming observation. And this immersive experience mirrors the mind's own gradual entry into restful states, where awareness of surroundings deepens gently, thought slows, and attention drifts fluidly without tension or effort. And as totality wanes, the gradual return of light, the gentle reappearance of familiar colors, and the soft fading of celestial shadows provide a lesson in transition, showing that endings, like beginnings, can unfold with elegance, continuity, and reassurance, reinforcing the principle that change is a natural, ordered process rather than an abrupt interruption. And in the case of planetary transits, such as Venus or Mercury crossing the Sun, the movement of a distant, minuscule silhouette across a bright disk reminds the observer of scale, precision, and the quiet influence of distant forces, illustrating that even subtle, nearly imperceptible motions can have significance when viewed through attentive, patient observation. And these transits reinforce the importance of timing, alignment, and geometric relationships in the cosmos, providing a model for how large systems achieve harmony through measured, predictable processes. And as occultations occur, where one celestial body passes in front of another, temporarily hiding it from view, the mind observes the elegance of concealment and revelation, the interplay of presence and absence, and the gentle rhythm of appearance and disappearance, all occurring without disruption, urgency, or chaos. And this quiet coordination offers profound insight into patience, trust, and the subtlety of influence, showing that even when a component is hidden, its role within the system persists, its effect continues, and its eventual reemergence is assured. And as astronomers use eclipses, transits, and occultations to measure distances, diameters, and atmospheres, they rely on observation, precision, and calm attentiveness, demonstrating that subtlety, persistence, and focus reveal truths that are inaccessible through haste or force. And as the moon's shadow glides across Earth's surface during a solar eclipse, traveling rapidly yet leaving gentle traces of dimmed light, a sense of scale, continuity, and coordination emerges, showing that even immense forces operate predictably and gracefully. And this awareness fosters reflection, patience, and relaxation, reminding the mind that magnitude does not equal chaos, that presence need not be aggressive to be effective, and that alignment within a system can produce beauty, balance, and rhythm without disruption. And as light returns and shadows recede, the observer absorbs lessons of transition, temporality, and harmony, understanding that cosmic cycles are orderly, predictable, and gentle, and that these principles can translate to human perception, thought, and rest, encouraging slow breathing, mental release, and attunement to natural rhythms. And as eclipses repeat through Saros cycles, planetary transits recur over decades and centuries, and occultations unfold according to the clockwork of celestial mechanics. A pattern emerges of continuity, reliability, and repetition, offering reassurance that events, like thoughts, emotions, or experiences, can follow natural sequences without pressure or abruptness. And as the mind drifts along these temporal patterns, visualizing the delicate glide of shadows, the faint silhouette of a distant planet, and the quiet alignment of bodies across millions of kilometers, a profound sense of connection arises between observer and cosmos, showing that human awareness, though finite, participates in an immense system that is both ordered and serene. And this connection nurtures security, perspective, and mental ease, allowing the mind to relax fully, release control, and float within the natural rhythm of celestial motion. And as we imagine following the passage of shadows across Earth's landscapes, noting the gradual changes in illumination, the subtle temperature shifts, and the alignment of moon, sun, and earth, a soft meditative cadence develops, where observation, reflection, and gentle attention merge, forming a mental environment conducive to rest, calm, and contemplation. And as planetary transits progress, shadows cross solar surfaces with imperceptible precision, occulting stars and moons across the solar system, and eclipses repeat over centuries. The mind absorbs the principle that cycles, alignment, and rhythm maintain continuity, stability, and structure, teaching that presence, even when invisible or indirect, supports order without disruption, and that observation, patience, and quiet awareness are sufficient to recognize harmony, subtlety, and relational balance. And as this understanding permeates consciousness, the interplay of light and shadow becomes a source of reassurance, trust, and calm, a cosmic lullaby in which eclipses, transits, and occultations guide perception along gentle rhythms, revealing the elegance of celestial motion, the predictability of natural cycles, and the profound peace that arises from witnessing alignment, timing, and shadow without urgency, noise, or interference. And ultimately, these events offer a model for deep, unhurried contemplation, reflection, and rest, demonstrating that even immense cosmic forces can operate quietly, predictably, and harmoniously, guiding motion, structuring experience, and nurturing mental calm night after night, across centuries, across solar systems, and across the vast, gentle sweep of space, where shadows, light, and alignment compose a lullaby of motion, balance, and serenity, inviting the mind to drift, float, and rest in sync with the enduring rhythm of the cosmos. As we shift our attention from the grandeur of celestial motions and shadows to the tangible remnants of our solar system's earliest history, meteorites and asteroids offer a slow, persistent narrative of creation, preservation, and transformation, providing the mind with a connection to deep time, to events that occurred billions of years before human observation. And as these rocky bodies drift through space, orbiting the sun along predictable paths, they serve as silent witnesses to the processes that built planets, moons, and the structures that cradle life. And in contemplating these objects, the mind enters a state of gentle curiosity, tracing their journeys from the asteroid belt, the Kuiper belt, or even the distant Oort cloud, noticing the slow, almost imperceptible gravitational interactions that guide their motion, the subtle collisions that occasionally chip fragments from their surfaces, and the quiet radiation from the sun that gradually alters their composition over eons, all of which unfolds on a scale so vast and gradual that it encourages the observer to settle into reflective patience, a mental rhythm akin to the slow, deep breathing that precedes sleep. And as we consider the diversity among asteroids, from metallic cores to rocky fragments to carbon-rich bodies, we notice that each carries a unique story encoded in its composition, shape, and orbit, suggesting that even in apparent simplicity, complexity thrives, and that every small component of the solar system contributes to a larger, ordered system that operates without rush, without drama, and without unnecessary tension. And meteorites that reach Earth, whether as tiny micrometeorites settling unnoticed in sand, or as larger, visually striking stones that draw attention to their fiery descent, provide an intimate connection between distant space and our home planet, a bridge that allows the mind to experience cosmic scale while remaining grounded. And as each meteorite burns through Earth's atmosphere, glowing gently before cooling upon the surface, we are reminded that transformation can be gradual, striking without chaos, illuminating without overwhelming, and that even intense events can unfold with rhythm, predictability, and subtle beauty. And as scientists study these objects, analyzing isotopes, mineral structures, and organic compounds, we gain insight into the conditions of the early solar system, the building blocks of planets, and the seeds of life. Yet all of this knowledge is accumulated patiently, piece by piece, without haste, reinforcing the notion that understanding arises through observation, continuity, and steady attention. And as we imagine the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter, a vast, sparse collection of rocky bodies, drifting in coordinated orbits, we perceive a landscape of quiet motion, a celestial dance of stability, where collisions are rare, interactions are gentle, and chaos is contained within predictable patterns. And this perception offers a calming model for the mind, showing that large systems, though composed of independent moving parts, can maintain equilibrium and rhythm when guided by natural laws. And as we visualize fragments from these asteroids colliding over millions of years, forming meteorites or shaping the surfaces of planets, a sense of slow, deliberate creativity emerges, one in which change occurs incrementally, without abrupt disruption. And this mirrors the gentle unfolding of thought, memory, and growth in human experience, where progress need not be instantaneous to be effective. And as we contemplate carbonaceous chondrites, rich in water and organic molecules, we recognize that even the smallest bodies carry the potential for life's essential ingredients, suggesting that influence and significance are not measured by size or proximity, but by composition, context, and timing. And this insight encourages reflection, perspective, and mental ease, because it shows that quiet, steady presence can yield meaningful results. And as iron-rich meteorites hint at the cores of long, destroyed protoplanets, and as stony bodies trace the shape of primordial nebulae in their mineral signatures, the mind appreciates the persistence of form, the resilience of matter, and the slow processes that have shaped our solar system into the structured, habitable environment we inhabit today. And this awareness fosters patience, trust, and calm, because it demonstrates that order, complexity, and life itself arise gradually, through cumulative, balanced processes, without force or urgency. And as these asteroids and meteorites drift across interplanetary space, occasionally perturbed by gravitational nudges from planets, their motion remains predictable, their orbits stable over millions of years, illustrating the quiet effectiveness of natural law and the reliability of slow, consistent influence. And this perception supports mental rest, because it encourages trust in patterns, rhythms, and principles that operate beyond immediate perception, showing that stability and continuity are ever present, even when unseen. And as we imagine holding a meteorite in our hands, feeling the cold, dense rock, textured by cosmic history, a tangible connection forms between the infinite expanse of space and the intimate scale of human experience, a connection that bridges vast distances and immense time, fostering grounding, reflection, and a sense of embeddedness within the solar system. And as we further consider the impact history recorded in craters across Earth, the Moon, and other planets, we see that meteorites, asteroids, and comets have shaped landscapes gradually, predictably, and often beautifully, and that even apparent destruction is part of a larger, harmonious process that maintains equilibrium, diversity, and the potential for renewal. And this understanding is deeply reassuring, because it shows that even events that appear disruptive contribute to structure, evolution, and balance, a principle that can guide mental processes, emotional resilience, and restful observation. And as we trace the paths of near-Earth asteroids, calculating their orbits, predicting future positions, and assessing their potential for collision, we are reminded of the precision and care inherent in celestial mechanics, the subtle balance of forces, and the patient observation required to perceive and understand these slow, moving bodies. And this awareness cultivates calm, because it models the value of steady attention, gentle measurement, and reliance on reliable principles, rather than panic or haste. And as some meteorites carry pre-solar grains, tiny relics from stars that existed before the sun, we glimpse a connection to epochs far beyond human comprehension, an invitation to appreciate scale, continuity, and endurance, to sense that even in the vast, cold emptiness of space, minute elements preserve history, structure, and potential, and that observation, reflection, and study can reveal profound insights over time without rush. And as we imagine countless fragments orbiting the sun, slowly migrating through the solar system, colliding, evolving, or remaining suspended in space, a vision of persistent, gentle motion emerges, one that is neither chaotic nor hurried, but orderly, balanced, and deeply harmonious, offering a model for thought, perception, and mental stillness. And in this contemplation, meteorites and asteroids provide a quiet narrative of creation, transformation, and continuity, demonstrating that even in apparent isolation or sparsity, influence endures, structure prevails, and motion is steady. And as we integrate this understanding into awareness, the mind absorbs patience, trust, and calm, resting within the steady rhythm of the solar system, carried along by the gentle flow of ancient rocks, drifting across the void, silently witnessing billions of years of cosmic history, a lullaby of matter, motion, and time that nurtures reflection, mental ease, and the slow, unhurried descent into deep, restorative rest.